Good evening, everyone. My name is John Kulak, and I am the chairman of this zoning board. I want to welcome you all and open today's meeting. So let's call the meeting to order. And I just have a few things that I have to read, so bear with me. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6. Specifically, on January 28, 2026, proper notice was sent to the electronic news sources of record, filed with the municipal clerk at the Township of Bridgewater, and posted on the municipal bulletin board. Please be aware of the Zoning Board of Adjustment policy for public hearings. No new applications will be heard after 9:30 p.m., and no new testimony will be taken after 10 p.m. You can read the paragraph on hearing assistance in case we need to provide that. But if you're able, I'd like you all to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Nancy, would you have, take us through a roll call, please? Yes, I'm here. It's okay, take your time.
Mr. Wodelli?
Here.
Mrs. Amin?
Here.
Mr. Franco?
Here.
Mr. Fresco?
Here.
Ms. Henderson Rose? Here. Mr. Gajewski?
Here.
Ms. Wiseman?
Here.
Mr. Vesio?
Here.
Mr. Colucci?
Here.
Mr. Mignella?
Here.
Mr. Aller, Board Attorney?
Here.
Mr. Burr, Board Engineer?
Here.
Ms. Sarmad, Board Planner? Here. And we also have Ben, I apologize, Ben Muller from Ostergaard, our acoustical engineer.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And to the members of the public and the people seated around the room, just a quick couple of comments before I open it up to the public for other matters. But you can see the board has been reconstituted, so some of the faces that you're looking at are different from the ones you saw back in, I think it was December, the last time we got together. But rest assured that everybody here on the board has been brought up to date as to the materials. They've either played the YouTube videos, and some of us have watched it more than once. And the objective is to have everybody on the same page as we move forward. So you have my assurance and the assurance of everyone here individually that we are well prepared to continue the hearing as we move forward. For the moment, I'd like to open the meeting to members of the public who want to talk to this board about land use matters that are not on the agenda for this evening. So something that we're not going to be discussing when we open the case. And seeing none, I'll close that portion of the meeting. We have a couple of minutes that we have to get through for approval. And Mrs. Amin, as being diligent as she has been, has made a few edits. While they're important for context, they're not substantive. And so as a result of that, I would like to have someone make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to move it that we do it with Mrs. Amin.
Motion to adopt.
Mrs. Amin is making a motion
Corrections.
to adopt the minutes with corrections.
And I'll second it with her motion. With her.
The corrections, I will give the corrected copy to,
And can we do them, Nancy, can we do them both together, or do we have to do them individually?
No, there's different people eligible to vote from that meeting, since it was from 2025.
Okay,
If you don't mind, I'll read off who's eligible. so
Yes,
who
please.
can motion and who can't.
and you're going to start with the October 28th minutes?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Wodelli, Mrs. Amin, Mr. Chairman Kulak, Mr. Gajewski, Mr. Vesio, and Mr. Fresco. That's it.
okay. So do you want to take us through a quick roll call, and we'll say yes or no, or how do you want to do it?
I just need a motion and a second from someone in that group.
Oh,
I'm making the motion and
And I second it with the changes from Mr.
Jimmy second.
And just for the record, those changes, I've reviewed them, and they're not substantive to the minutes.
Okay. Chairman Kulak,
Yes.
Mr. Waddell, Mrs. Amin,
Yes.
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Mr. Vesio,
Yes.
and Mr. Fresco.
Yes.
Thank you. So now moving on to the minutes of January 27, 2026. Similarly, there are some minor edits that affect the context but don't affect the substance of the minutes as written. So would someone like to make a motion to
I'll
adopt
make a
them?
motion to approve.
So Mrs. Amin is making the
I'll
motion.
second with her changes.
Right. And Mr. Wiley has seconded it.
Chairman Kulak,
Yes.
Mr. Wadley,
Yes.
Mrs. Amin,
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
I wasn't sure I was eligible for those.
You were present January 27th, so you are.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Fresco,
Yes.
Ms. Wiseman,
Yes.
Mr. Vesio,
Yes.
Mr. Colucci,
Yes.
Mr. Mignella.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Moving forward, we have a resolution that I would like to read because it's something that we need to adopt as an updated designation of the way in which we communicate the board meeting dates and the information associated with them. The Township of Bridgewater Zoning Board of Adjustment hereby adopts the following protocols for legal notices and advertisements in compliance with S4654/P.L.2025 I hate reading those. And pursuant to NJSA 40:53-1 and the modernization requirement of S4654. So primary electronic designation of information sharing will be the tap into the breeze. And for those of you who have the resolution, the website is listed there and is hereby designated for the year ending December 31st, 2026 as the official electronic news source for the provision of notices and other matters under the Open Public Meetings Act. Furthermore, the Zoning Board of Adjustment recognizes Tap Into the Breeze as an eligible online news publication pursuant to the criteria set as dictated in what I read before for the publication of required legal notice summaries and supplemental advertisements. The Township of Bridgewater's official website, and you can read the website there, but it's bridgewaternj.gov, shall serve as the primary platform for public notice. The Township Clerk will maintain a hyperlink on the Township's homepage directing the public to a dedicated page for legal notices, maintain an online archive of all legal notices, and submit the Township's legal notice hyperlink to the Secretary of State for inclusion in the statewide central directory, providing updates as necessary, and for the duration of the 2026 calendar year. Provide an advertisement at least twice per month on Tap Into the Breeze. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Bridgewater, that Tap Into the Breeze and the Township of Bridgewater's official website are hereby designated as the official electronic news sources of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for 2026, and are authorized to receive all notices of Zoning Board Adjustment meetings as required under the Open Public Meetings Act. This board's resolution dated January 13, 2026, entitled Designation of 2026 Official Newspapers, and resolution dated January 27, 2026, entitled Designation of 2026 Electronic News Sources authorized to receive all notices of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, are hereby revoked and superseded by the terms of this resolution. So with that, I'd like someone to make a motion, please, to adopt this resolution.
I move.
Second.
We have Mr. Whiteley and Ms. Rose. Nancy?
Chairman Kulak,
Yes.
Mr. Wadley,
Yes.
Mrs. Amin,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mr. Fresco.
Yes.
Ms. Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Ms. Wiseman,
Yes.
Mr. Vesio,
Yes.
Mr. Colucci,
Yes.
and Mr. Mignella.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Moving forward, there's a section on land development applications. I think everybody can read that for themselves and see what the process is and to contact the planning department as described. So we're moving on to our third hearing. The application is number 25-001-ZB, Cafe Emilia, and we have some returning guests and probably some new faces as well, we'll see.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. For the record, I'm Donna Jennings from the law firm of Willen, Skolman, and Spitzer. On behalf of the applicant, I would just, as a matter of record keeping, want to indicate that I did receive, right before the meeting, a February 24th, 2026 memo from the environmental/health officials, so I just want to acknowledge receipt of that. And then, of course, I brought our site engineer back, Rob Michello, and we were in the beginning of the cross-examination from the public, so I think that's where we would begin.
Very well. Ms. Jennings, thank you. And Mr. Michello is here. Mr. Oler, do we have to swear in Mr. Michello again?
I will. I know he was sworn at the last time he testified, but it's a new year. Rob, would you raise your hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And again, for the record, just your full name?
My full name, Robert Moschello, Moschello, and the business address is 265 Main Street, Gladstone, New Jersey.
Thank you.
And my license is still in good standing.
Thank you.
And do we need to go through his credentials again?
No,
Okay.
his license is still in good standing. He was previously accepted by the board on
Very
his
well.
application. Thank you.
Mr. Michello, welcome. And I know that we were in the midst of people, the public asking questions based on your testimony at the prior meeting. So we can pick up from that moment in time. I know it's a little hard, maybe there's a little disconnect, but Mr. Michello is the engineer representing the applicant, and his questions, his presentation had to do with the engineering of the site, and what the thought process was behind that, and some of the factors that had gone into providing as much relief as the applicant could with respect to things like stormwater, setbacks, and things like that. So if that helps you, hopefully that it did. If not, just play along with us as we go forward, because I'm sure you'll learn more as we do so. So with that, I'd like to open the meeting to the public to pose questions to Mr. Michello, but limit it to his prior testimony. You can come up. And just a couple of rules that we would like to follow. So sign in, please, with your name and address, and then identify yourself similarly.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Brittany Wheeler. I am not a resident of Charlotte Drive or Bridgewater Township. I'm a resident of Bedminster Township. However, my parents, Laura and Roy Wheeler, who are here tonight, have lived on Charlotte Drive, the neighboring community of the applicant, for 37 years. I'll sign the paper, I'll sign in.
Yeah, that would be,
So before we get there, would you spell your last name for me, please?
Certainly, it's Wheeler. First name, Brittany, Ttany.
Two T's.
Correct.
Ms. Jennings, her parents live on the street, she doesn't. Do you have any objection to her asking questions?
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
Ms. Wheeler?
Thank you. So forgive me, I'm far from a subject matter expert as it pertains to engineering or municipal land use. But is it true that the courts require enhanced quality of proof for use variances because they fundamentally alter zoning?
So he's an engineer, not the planner, so that would be more of
There's
an...
going to be testimony from the applicant's professional planner, perhaps tonight, and you can ask their professional planner those types of questions.
Okay.
Right now, all we're doing is asking their engineer questions about his testimony. So I didn't swear you in because we're not taking your statement right now.
Understood.
When we get to that part, I will swear you in if you have a statement to make. You're certainly welcome to do that. I'll swear you in for that statement. But right now, we're only asking questions of the engineer. There's going to be additional witnesses this evening presented by the applicant, and you can ask questions of those witnesses as well.
Okay, so I'll skip ahead a few bullet points then.
Okay.
How many variances, just for the record, because again, it's been a couple months since we've last met, but how many variances are there?
When I went, When I went through the record the last time, we have a total on my cover sheet of 10 variances and 6 design waivers that were being requested.
I believe in your testimony last time, sir, that part of the variances is a landscape design variance per section 120, 191, a D1A. I believe the current ordinance requires 8 shrubs for every 30 feet of frontage. Is that correct?
Just checking the notes here. Hold on a second. Yes, and it's a design waiver, and it's 8 shrubs for every 30 feet of frontage along the building, correct?
So that would mean that that the applicant would be required under the current ordinance to plant 69 shrubs in front of the building, correct?
Correct, based on 257 square feet of frontage.
And the applicant is seeking a variance proposing 28 shrubs, or 68% less than what is currently required, correct?
That's correct.
And forgive me, this is where I don't know where the line is with respect to your testimony or somebody else's. But can you explain the community benefit or special reason for this variance?
Again, that would be the planner that will testify at the end.
Understood. Okay, so moving forward, again, sticking to the landscape design variance, again, I believe the current requirement would be, per the ordinance, is 10 shrubs for every 20 feet of foundation, correct?
Yes, correct.
So that would mean that the variance you're seeking is for 76 shrubs per the public application, when 167 are required. So that would be a 55% less than what is required by law.
That's correct.
Okay. And what is the current lot coverage of Lot 17?
The current lot coverage of Lot 17, it's 96%. Existing lot coverage is 96%.
I believe at one of the prior meetings that Chairman Foos had requested the applicant to provide documentation as to how the lot owner received 94, 98% lot coverage. Do you have that documentation?
I testified at the last meeting that I went back and looked at the aerials of the property going back to the 1970s, and it appeared to be pretty much paved over back to that time. Now I'm going back to an aerial from the 70s, which was a little grainy, but it looked to be pretty much paved over. Now I can't say if it was 96% to the current calculations, but it was certainly developed at least 50 years ago, if not more.
And just for the record, I did not one but 2 open requests, and the township has no documentation on record.
Is there a record as to when that project was completed? Or when that pavement was, when it went from whatever it was before to 94%?
Again, I went back to as far back as the 70s, and it was paved over. Again, I'm not getting into the dates of the municipal land use law when the township adopted their zoning ordinances, but the indication is that this either predates it or it was around that time that ordinances were put into effect. When I went back to the aerials from the 1950s, they were grainy, and I couldn't tell exactly how much pavement versus what was grass on that property at the time. So it was a little harder to tell if it was 96% back in the 50s, but it definitely was very well developed in the 70s.
I think it's fair to say that the applicant and their representatives have made a good faith effort to identify the history of the property. And then Ms. Jennings pointed out that she made at least 2 OPRA requests, and we just, in Bridgewater Township, was not able to produce any records that would validate that. So, and Mr. Oler, you will correct me if I'm wrong, but usually in cases like this, because you have both a pre-existing use and a ongoing use of a particular business, then that gets, quote, grandfathered into the use moving forward, just for that lot.
Well, it's not necessarily grandfathered in, and I think where
Wrong term on my
this
part. but-
person's trying to get is it at 96% impervious legally? Meaning, was there a prior approval from the board, or did that pavement percentage exists prior to the ordinance saying that it had to be something less than 96%. And they don't really have proof of that other than historical photos, which are typically, when you go back that far, they're really not very good, you know. But, you know, his testimony is what it is, right?
Understood.
Do we have no way of putting this to rest? How do we put it to rest, I guess?
Well, it's part of this application. So if this application were granted at the, Mr. Michello, what's the percentage we're seeking here?
79.4%.
Right, 79.4%.
Both lots?
That's the two, yeah,
That's the
new.
combined new lots together, 79.4%.
Right, so if this application is approved at 74.9,
79.4.
79.4% for the combined lots, then it's going to be reflected in the resolution, and that's what's going to be approved by the board.
Right, but as far as the 98% and how we got there, so fine, there's no photos of it going back, but is there ever a time where the borough acknowledged that it was at that particular coverage previously?
Well, the borough, in their Oprah requests, right, also didn't show any violation notices for the property.
Correct, there's been no notice
indicating
of violation.
That, right.
Right, there's no violations and there was nothing granting the ability to do that. I'm just curious if we ever acknowledged, if you had asked or found anything where we acknowledged that
Well, I think their
coverage
argument's
was there.
going to be the mere fact that it existed
Yeah.
since
More than 50 years
1970s.
with no violations.
Right. That kind of speaks, you know, to the percentage.
Just-
Yeah. But I think the more important part is that if this application's approved, and that's the percentage, 79.4%, then you're kind of legalizing it now,
Right.
right?
So
Have any idea of when the existing building was built?
Do we know that?
I went back to the 50s, and the building was there in the 50s on the aerials that I looked at. I don't know the date before that.
Catherine, do you know the date of the first zoning ordinance in this town? Look, the Planning Act was like 1954-ish.
A lot of towns, they're not, somewhere between 1955 and 1970.
Right. So, you know, it's a fair assumption that the first ordinance is probably in that range, right? So,
it's a closed matter, folks.
yeah, well, but when you went back to the 1950 historical aerials, did it show a building on the lot?
Yeah, there was a structure on the lot.
Right.
I can't say if it was exactly the footprint that's there today, but there's a structure on the property.
Yeah. I've looked at historical photos going back that far for things, and they are very difficult to read. Yeah.
So there's a good question, thank you. We've polled the experts.
Yeah, but the real point is that that's why they're here. It's part of why they're here. And this application would, quote, legalize that percentage that they're asking for.
Thank you. Do you have other questions for Mr. Michello?
Yes, sir, thank you. I know in previous meetings, there has been discussion with respect to valet parking and another adjacent property that would be used for parking. Is that something that the applicant is seeking?
No, as I
prepared for?
mentioned, or we mentioned at the end of the last meeting, we are not seeking an application to park on a different lot than what's currently shown on the plan here.
Is there any design in the plan for a valet station or where the valet would take place?
Again, some of that will be talked about this evening by our architect, but there's no station proposed. Again, given the size of this building and this site, it would be, our intent is to, as I testified to, have the operation in the front of the building along the drive aisle here, and the valets would just basically be staged out by the entrance there. There's no structure or station that would be put in place for them.
There's no tandem parking identified on the.
Correct,
on it,
correct.
Right.
If you do valet parking in front of the building, would that not create additional traffic issues
No, I don't believe so.
off
We also have a
202?
traffic engineer that you probably be more
Traffic
appropriate to
engineer.
ask them that
Okay,
question.
thank you. Are you aware, sir, of any other commercial property in Bridgewater that's been granted over 60% lot coverage?
Over 60%?
Correct. And do you know what the current requirement is?
Well, the current coverage for the zone, I believe, is 60%. I can tell you that, give me one second.
Sorry.
Just want to make sure. The current improved lot coverage, maximum improved lot coverage for this zone is 25%. I'm sorry, I was mixing that up with a different zone.
So
25% for this zone, but I do know there are properties in Bridgewater Township with more than 60% lot coverage. I know I've done one or two of them myself, as far as applications go.
Are they for restaurants and banquet halls or
They're for
commercial
commercial
property?
properties.
And I believe there's 2 zones that allow 70%.
Ms. Jennings is correct. There's 2 current properties that allow for 70% that are both commercial properties, not in residential zones. Is it your opinion, sir, that granting the 79% improved lot coverage would create a precedent for other similarly situated properties in the township?
I'm going to defer that question to our planner.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for right now. Thank you, sir. I'll be back.
Ms. Wheeler, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to remind the public that as we go through this, it's important not to be redundant in the questions that you pose, so that the questions that Ms. Wheeler posed and the answers that she received, and if you need clarification, that's okay, but we want to continue to be in an effort to both be fair to the public and the applicant, try and keep the questions moving and see if there are different questions as we move forward. So is there anyone else from the public who would like to pose questions to Mr. Michello about his engineering testimony? Welcome, sign in.
Good evening.
Please tell us your name,
My name is Terry Black. I reside at 10 Charlotte Drive.
and Black as in B-L-A-C-K, is that what you said? Okay, that was an easy one.
Yeah. The last meeting, it was mentioned also about the highway opening on 202, the curb opening, I don't know what you call it.
The press curb.
What?
The
Press curb,
yes.
okay. And the right-of-way, and then also about the lot coverage and it not being changed. I do have a picture of the front of Cafe Amelia with grass, and I believe there was a curb, and this was during the beginning of COVID-19. So,
Right now, we're just asking questions of the site engineer on testimony he
We-
had. He
we
didn't
can
testify to
take-
that picture.
We can take that picture when you come up later to give your testimony and your statements.
okay, I just wanted to correct, because he said there hadn't been any changes in,
Yeah, so
years or whatever.
You're asking him, is he aware of any curbing along the highway frontage in the early 2020s, right? During
also,
COVID?
he's talking about the coverage of the lot. It was always like 90-something%, and I'm here to dispute that, because he
Okay.
did say that it hadn't been changed.
Okay,
I
and
believe there was
you
a
can
curb.
testify to that.
Yes, was.
Yes, when they finish with all their witnesses and it's your turn to come up, I will swear you in and you can give us testimony to all of those things.
Okay. Can you tell me if the curb was recessed? Would it be legal to just recess the curb?
Well, let me back up for a second. Number one, I'm going off of the survey that was prepared for the property that shows along the frontage pavement. That's what's there, and I'm going off of the aerials that I've presented, which are from the mid to late 2020s, that show no grass or anything along the frontage here of Route 202. So that's what we prepared our plans based upon a survey that was done within the last year, year and a half. If there was some type of grass or something out there before that, it's not represented on the aerial mapping that I have here in front of me, and it's not represented on the survey that was done on the property that says there's 96% lot coverage out there now. So if something was changed, it was changed, and it predates the work that we prepared for this application.
Okay, but when the board was talking about, is it legal, and was it this, and was it changed, there's nothing that was found because it was just done.
Well, again, I said I went back and looked at aerials, and it appeared that there was pavement on this property back then. I have not seen the photo. I can't comment on it. I'll be happy to go back and take a look again more closely to see if there was something else out there in the past, but I'm going off of what was the survey that was prepared on the property.
Okay, I just wanted to get that in there because that was the discussion that was being discussed by you guys.
Yeah, no, it's helpful.
earlier. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Rob, just to stay on that point for a second, when I look at your plan, sheet 3,
Yes.
right? Okay, so that's your site dimension plan. And it shows an area where you say depressed curb, right? And it's a little darkened, I know, right, that line?
Yes.
Is it just that area that's the depressed curb, that
But just-
darkened line?
Just for everyone who's looking at that, I can probably point to it on here a little bit better. On my plan, from about this point where I am here, my pointer, all along the entire frontage of 202, that's the depressed curb that's being called out on the plan there.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it stops basically just a little bit past the, I guess where the property line would split the site, because you have two lots there that exist today.
Okay, so that darkened line on sheet 3 is not really representative of anything? It just happens to be darker?
It's representing the depressed curb. Because the curb is shaded in where it's depressed.
Well, that's my question, right? So it's just that area where it says depressed curb, and then you go back to a regular curb until you come around the corner?
No, it's depressed curb the whole way around.
Okay, so my first question, why is that line darker then?
So we can re-represent it differently than regular height curb.
Okay, so just to the right of that darker line, right? That's a regular curb or a depressed curb? Because it's not darker.
I'd have to take a closer look at it.
Because when I looked at the plan and it said
Yeah.
depressed curb, it looked like it was just that area, which I don't remember what the scale is here, but,
Yeah,
so maybe 30 feet?
it could be a small section in there that's maybe not fully depressed. I know cars can drive off of 202 right into the parking lot there.
Okay, so roughly where it says depressed curb at the top of sheet 3, from where that darkened line is, from there all the way around to Charlotte Drive East, past your entrance, the proposed entrance on Charlotte Drive, that's all depressed curb?
I'll have to double check that, Mr. Olla, just to make sure, because I'm looking at a smaller plan here.
Yeah, it says it on the Charlotte Drive part, but I wasn't quite clear that it said it on Route 202.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, based on this, and I'll have to go check the other map, it looks like there may be a section of raised curb along the 202 frontage in there.
Yeah.
The height of it, I'm not 100, oh, thank you.
It's just later when we see the picture, I expect we'll see that picture later. You know, I want to be able to relate that photograph to sheet 3 and see what was depressed.
And thank you for the large-size plan, Ms. Jennings. Just to clarify, yes, and I got to stop looking at 11 by 17 plan sheets. It is depressed from the left side of the plan for about maybe 25 feet. Then it goes up to full height curb, and then it goes back down again to depressed curb along Charlotte Drive West.
Okay. So roughly 25 feet is where it's depressed, and you're not planning on changing that, right?
Correct. We're not planning on changing any of the curbing that's along the frontage of the property or onto Charlotte
All
Drive.
right, so if someone came in off of 202, they would come in through, obviously, that depressed curb area, right? And then park, well, no, they wouldn't, right? You're not suggesting anyone would come in through that
Well,
depressed
we're
curb.
still keeping the entrance on 202 because you do have the couple of ADA spaces here that are in front. So you could still pull in off of 202 and park here in the front. The intent here with the design is that you have an entrance on Charlotte Drive West, you have an entrance on Charlotte Drive East, so that we anticipate that patrons will either come in on Charlotte Drive West, pull into the property, and then queue in the front for valet, or if they don't come in on the west, they'll come in on Charlotte Drive East and drive around the back of the property to the front, where they'll be queued for valet as well.
Okay, but you're not suggesting that someone would come in, stop for valet, right? And then the valet, sorry, let me rephrase that. The valet would not then take that car and go out on 202 and make a right on Charlotte Drive?
No, the intent would be that we'd valet them in this section of the plan here. That's why we have it a one-way there. And we want to have a valet location that would be by the entrance here to direct those vehicles that way. We don't really want to valet them right in the front here by the ADA spaces. We want to keep that open for circulation purposes, so the valets could take the cars and drive them around the property to park them.
Right, so when they take it and drive around the building, as you just said, they would not go back out on 202?
No, they would stay on the pavement in the front here and then go on to Charlotte Drive East and then drive around to the back.
Maybe partially in the 202 right-of-way, because you'd probably have to go
Well,
up.
it is a shared
Not
right-of-way.
technically in the highway.
Correct. We don't want them going back in the highway.
Right. Okay, and you have a traffic engineer?
We have a traffic engineer,
Is he
yes.
going to testify tonight?
No, I don't think we're going to get to it.
Okay.
And I do want to point out one thing, just to be clear of how the lot coverage is calculated for the board and for the public who's asking this question. Lot coverage is based upon the area of impervious within the limits of the property itself. So when we do that calculation, we use the property line limits for that. What's in the right-of-way of Route 202 is technically the right-of-way. And while it may be paved, there's pavement there. If there was some type of a landscape feature there at one time, that wouldn't have counted towards the lot coverage on the actual property itself. It
Understood.
would be within the DOT right. Just like on the front of the church lot, there's grass along there, and that's within the state right-of-way.
Right.
So just so the record's clear, the property delineation is the yellow line all around, and everything
Correct.
on the top of the yellow line is actually the right-of-way. We don't own that.
Correct.
Any other members of the public who would like to address Mr. Michello specific to his engineering testimony? And please sign in and then tell us who you are and where you live.
Good evening.
Good evening.
John Andrew Kinsey, resident of 11 Charlotte Drive in
And please spell your last name for us.
Kinsey.
It's always so easy when you say it.
I'm sorry, and your address again, please?
11 Charlotte Drive.
Thank you.
Hi. Are you being paid for your opinion and testimony this evening?
I was hired by my client for this application, yes.
So the answer to that question is yes. And what financial arrangements?
Mr. Kinsey,
Irrelevant.
I believe that's
Just-
relevant to the
It's
Two
relevant to
things.
bias and
two
credibility.
things. If you speak into the microphone, then it'll be recorded, and that will help us in the transcripts and so on later.
Okay, thank you.
Then secondly, I couldn't hear your second question. The first question, he's hired by the applicant.
Correct.
And provide his professional services to the applicant.
Right.
And then present to the board what his opinion is and what his findings have been.
Right.
We also have an engineer of our own who will be able to ask additional questions at the appropriate time.
Okay. So my questions are geared toward bias and credibility, which I
do
think
what, I'm
is
sorry?
relevant to any hearing.
Well, I think everybody knows that all of the people representing the applicant are paid consultants, so that's a given.
Right.
I don't think we need to get into any more of that. The board
Yeah, I
understands
don't think
that.
it's relevant as to how much he's getting paid. I mean, the board has its professionals, those professionals are paid by the town. So, you know, anyone here who's a professional either on the applicant side or on the township side is being paid to be here.
I would point out, by the way, that none of the people sitting up here are being paid, just so we're clear. And neither are you.
Right. So what's your
Right.
hourly fee?
It's
Witness?
irrelevant. We're
So
not
it
going to
is-
be answering
Yeah,
this
he
question.
doesn't have to answer. It's
It is
not
an
a relevant
objection.
Is
question.
it sustained?
It's not a relevant question. He does
Okay,
not
well,
have
it's
to
in the
answer.
record now. My next question is, are you
Will
being
be.
paid a bonus if the application's successful?
Again, objection.
Yeah, he doesn't have to
Sustaining
answer.
that objection? or
Yes,
you're
he
gonna
doesn't
let-
have to answer.
He doesn't have to ask?
Correct.
He doesn't?
He's a professional engineer. He has signed and sealed the plans, and he's here explaining that signed and sealed plan to the board, but it's not relevant to
And
the
you
board's
don't think bias
consideration.
and credibility is relevant?
It does not go to his
And
credibility.
you don't think a success fee is relevant?
Correct.
How much have you billed so far?
Again,
Again, it has to do with the engineering testimony, none of which your questions are. So if you have a question about his engineering testimony, we'd like you to ask it. But if not, we would ask that you hold those till the end of the hearing completely, when you have an opportunity to express your opinion about the project and anything else you wanted to say.
Yeah, I have no further questions then.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address Mr. Michello and his engineering testimony? And remember, please, to sign in and then tell us who you are. And it's helpful to me if you spell your last name, because either my hearing's going, or I don't know what's happening, but,
First name Ann,
okay,
last name Grace.
got it.
And your address?
Everybody always asks me if Grace is my first name, so. 42 Charlotte. I hope these questions are relevant and can be answered. My first question is, what is the height of the current location of Cafe Amelia?
The height of the building,
Yes.
I think we had it on the plans.
we are going to have the
We-
architect.
Actually, we had it as 2 stories on lot 17. 22.2 feet is the number we had on the plans, and I know our architect will be up to testify as well about the building.
Well, I'm asking that for the new location, what is the height of that over on the church property?
Of the addition, the height of the
Yes,
addition
the
is measured
very
to
top part.
20, based on the ordinance calculation, 29.7 feet.
Okay, so about 30 feet. And that's where the upstairs bar is going to be, the outdoor bar?
Well, it's been modified, so the architect will talk about the actual bar itself, but it's on this side of the building, yes, correct.
Okay, and what is the width of that new building?
The width of the new building,
How many feet?
well, again, it's going to vary because it's 2 separate pieces to it, so it's anywhere from, this section of it's about 71 feet wide, this section's about 56 feet wide, and then we have another probably about 35, 40-foot connector in here. The architect can talk to more of the specifics of the building,
So
those are the general dimensions.
about 110, 115 feet?
Yeah, from the existing building where we're connecting here over to the end of that building.
And the original Cafe Amelia, what is the width of that actual structure?
I'm sorry, it's not dimensioned on the plan here. It's probably, if I had to estimate the front width of it, and I'll defer to our architect on the exact dimensions, but the front width is probably about 45, 50 feet at most. That front's on 202, and maybe this section here is about 55 feet in this dimension as well, on the Charlotte east side.
Okay, so if that's about 100, I'll just say about 115 feet wide, what is the width of that lot, the lot and block of the church?
The church lot, the width of
Yes.
the church lot? The front width of the church lot on Route 202 is about 157 feet based on the survey.
Okay, so we have about 115 feet for that building?
Yes.
Doesn't include sidewalk or shrubbery or anything
Well,
around
again,
it?
don't
I
forget.
guess they're going to have landscape around there?
Yeah, but don't forget, the building is also being improved on the Cafe Amelia lot as well. So the church lot's 157 feet, Cafe Amelia's 110.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I guess maybe you misunderstood me. I was just talking about the particular lot of the church.
Yes, church lot's 157 feet wide, and the building, the portion of the building on that lot, again, estimating about 70 feet wide on the church lot. So 157-foot wide lot, 70 foot of building addition, roughly.
So you're only going to be 70 feet into the 157 feet?
Yes.
That's not the way we originally understood that, I think.
That's the way it's shown on the plans.
And then how much area do you need for parking and landscaping above and beyond? Okay, let's say it is 70 feet, and that leaves you with, the width of the building is 115. How many feet does that leave you for parking and landscaping before you hit the yellow curb, black curb, short curb, whatever you've been calling?
Well, before you hit the property line, as we
Right.
refer to it. So again, it just,
No, the curb.
well, I have dimensions to the property lines, is how I measured it on the plan here. The dimensions from the building to the property lines, and I believe I testified to this previously, was about 33 feet to the front lot line, 79 feet to the western property line, and 60 feet to the southern property line.
How many feet to the left side, you said?
79.9 feet to the west or to the left.
80 feet
80
from the
feet.
side, but there's not 80 feet from the side of that building right now.
The building doesn't exist yet. It's been
No,
built.
I'm talking about
The
the
church building
original.
is closer to Charlotte than the new building is going to be.
I think for
This
the
is-
the purposes
yeah, I'm
of
trying
our
to combine the
discussion.
two.
Sure. When you're looking at the plans that Mr. Michello was saying, they're going to be further augmented by the plans the architect is going to show you, and that might give you a better visualization of the building on the lot. But as you can see, the two buildings become combined into one entity, surrounded by parking and access ways and so on. So as it appears to you on that picture, you can see that to the left of the brown shading and the green outline, all of that is still the church lot, and it's all dedicated to parking and right-of-way. Does that help you at all, or no?
No.
No?
So that green line on the left side of that brown building, that
This
is the
line right here?
current Cafe Amelia building right there?
No.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. How do you get 80 feet? You're saying there's 80 feet from that, the new building
Yes.
to the curb.
To the
So,
property line. There's even more distance to the curb.
no, I mean to the Charlotte Drive west, east.
East, no, you're talking about west. You keep talking about west. East is on this side over here.
Okay, so there's 80 feet to the side. Okay, that's the side I'm concerned about. How many feet is it from the side of the original building to the curb?
To the curb, well, it's, again, it's measured to the property line on my plan here, and it's 24 and a half feet on the east side of the project, from the building corner to the property line.
And how many parking spaces will be around the whole building?
Around the old building?
Around the.
Oh, the whole
entire
project is
building,
51 parking spaces.
51. Okay, so how many parking spaces are around the current building?
Current building, I believe I had testified to that previously. It was, just to make sure I had the right number here. There's 32 spaces around the current building, and there's 5 that are not in use right now due to the outdoor patio that was there. So 32 existing spaces.
And there's 100 new seats going into, 100 seats?
That was what we testified to, approximately.
And how many are in the original building?
I forget the exact amount. It was, I'll have to just defer to the architect on that one. But it was over 70 seats, I believe, in the existing building.
So you're talking 170 seats. This is the point that I came here to make. You have 170 seats and 32 new parking, I mean, I have no idea how you'll even do that, because the current building that's there right now overflows into, it's not my side of the street, it's my neighbor's. They have taken pictures. I've walked around the block hundreds of times, 17 to 20 cars down that side of the street because of the overflow of the current space. All of those cars are parking up and down. And
Now, I just
when this
ask
new
you to pause for
facility-
just a second.
Oh, because you're going to.
And Mr. Oler, is he getting it to the part where she's testifying, in which case, will you tell me
Are
where
you
we
leading
see-
up to a question, or?
Because we understand that you've witnessed this condition. Are you saying that as a preface to a question?
It's an engineer question. I'm
What's the
just
question, please?
wondering how they're going to fit so
Okay.
many people into a building where they, like, are they going to show up in a jitney coming? Are we going to have a jitney in Bridgewater now?
I understand your question. You want to know if the parking that is proposed is sufficient, given the number of seats in the combined two
Thanks.
buildings. Is that it?
Yeah.
And Mr. Michello will tell you that?
Yes, so to answer your question about the parking, it's 180 seats that we're proposing in the building. That's between the existing cafe building, the event space, and the bar. And the architect will talk to the seats in more detail, but based on the ordinance that the township ordinance is set up for, we're required to have, and I'll go back to the number again, required to have 51 parking spaces, and we have 51 parking spaces on site. So we meet the ordinance requirement for parking. That's based on the township's requirement.
Bridgewater Township says that you can have 100
Yes,
seats.
yes, 180 seats, and the 51 spaces are required, per the ordinance.
That's very interesting. Now, how many feet is the rooftop bar?
Again, I'm going to defer that to the architect for the dimensions. He has it on his plans.
Is that an open air space?
I'm going to defer to him for how that's going to operate. That's architecture, not site plan engineering. So he'll be happy to answer that question.
Okay. All right. So my final question is, when there's a big party and everybody shows up, like as usual, 2 people in a car, 1 person in a car, like coming from one of the Johnson & Johnson events that they have, a party. This is going to be a very popular place, I think. I think it'll be a successful business, not for the residents, but for the people.
Was that a
applicant.
question? Are you asking him?
Yes, the question is, where will the cars go for when there's 150 seats in this facility, and everybody goes out to dinner that night, 1 and 2 in a car, or 1 when they leave from work? What happens? That's my last point.
Thank you. Mr. Michello?
Anybody could even answer.
I think, again, your statement is about, number of people in a car and how that functions and operates. Again, the design is based on the ordinance standard, which is basically three people per, 3 seats per car. Again, how the site's going to function and operate in terms of different events is going to be dealt with by our architect. He'll talk about different aspects of the site. But the way we have it designed is to function based on the number of seats that's allowed by ordinance. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to have all 180 seats occupied at one time, because you have different events going on at different times. And we're going to talk about that in terms of operations, because you can have a people eating in the restaurant. You may not have a party going on in the event space, and therefore you're not going to have 180 seats full at that time.
Well, being optimistic, I would say that a bridal shower or a baby shower, I don't know too many people who say, I'll pick you up and pick you up. Usually one person comes and they park a car.
And if you're doing a
It's
bridal,
usually
and if you're having a
one,
bridal shower,
at the most 2. And I think this facility is going to be geared towards bridal showers, baby showers, communion parties, graduation parties, weddings. It could be fantastic. I just think it's in the wrong spot for people who've been living behind that area for such a long time quietly.
I think the board will hear from our architect, who's going to talk about how the spaces are going to operate and function, how some will operate at the same time, and how some will operate at different times, given the type of events that'll occur. So I think you'll hear that when he
Do
testifies.
you know how it's currently operating?
It's a restaurant.
It's very, very
See,
successful.
here's where we're moving
Well, I
away
will
from
digress.
questions and moving into testimony, but you'll get a chance to do that at the end. Thank you. We have someone else who would like to speak? And sign in, please, and tell us your name and spell your last name for us. And if you need to, you can adjust the mic so that it's comfortable for you.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to give a little clarification to
Your name first.
Tom Horvath,
You spell your last name, please?
H-O-R-V as in Victor, A-T-H,
And your address?
15 Charlotte Drive.
Thank you.
Point of clarification for the board, because earlier was stated that they were looking at photos as to what was there. And the 4 buildings that were originally there in the 50s, the church was a delicatessen house combination. The open lot between that church and Cafe Amelia was the original home of Country Hills Fire Department. Cafe Amelia was known as Hammer's Tavern.
So, Mr. Horvath, we're really just asking questions now, and you will, I promise, you will have an opportunity to come up. I will swear you in so that we can take sworn testimony, and you can give all the history that you are aware of, which I'm sure will be very helpful, right? But right now, we're only at the point where we're questioning the engineering testimony. Okay? So if you have questions for the engineer based on his testimony, please ask.
Okay, on December 16th, which was a weekday, there was, I guess you would call it a holiday party. And people were parked on Charlotte Drive East. When the people were leaving, I asked one of the attendees that, why were they parked that way? And they said that somebody from the cafe had told them when, I guess they were making their arrangements to park on one side of the street, which most of the people did. Now, December 17th, which is a Wednesday, and our recycling day on Charlotte Drive, there was another party, and people parked on the right-hand side of the street. So what happens is that the impact we have for mail delivery, recycling pickup, and...
So again, Mr. Horvath.
Now, I'm getting to my question.
Okay, it's a long prelude. Go ahead.
My question is, when whoever at Cafe Amelia said to park on one side of the street, was any consideration given to the services that Charlotte Drive residents receive for services that they've come to expect?
I can't speak to what the restaurant had told their patrons where to park. Again, I'm not part of that daily operation that occurs there, so I can't speak to why they were told to park on one side of the street or the other.
And I also think that we've asked Mr. Michello about the parking, and his answer has been that there are 51 spaces, and that's what the Township of Bridgewater's ordinance requires them to do. So they're not doing more than that, they're not doing fewer than that. They're staying right with what the ordinance requires. And at the end of this presentation, and when we hear from the architect and the planner, that's when you'll have an opportunity, and any other member of the public who wants to offer testimony as to experiences that they've had or how things might be improved for the future. If there's some relief that the applicant can provide, you'll have that opportunity as we discuss it with the architect and then later when you offer your opinion.
Okay, one final mention was that most of the conversation centered around Friday and Saturday, but I also wanted to make people aware that they do have weekday events that do have an impact on Charlotte Drive's residents. Thank you.
And we'll have an opportunity to explore that as well. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to ask Mr. Michello? Just be mindful of the questions that have been asked and be mindful of testimony versus questions. And with that, you can sign in and then tell us who you are.
My name is Daniel Gerlach, Gerlach, and I live at 9 Charlotte Drive. And my question right now isn't for Mr. Michello, I guess his name was, is that right?
That's his name, and that's what we'd like your
Not for him.
questions to be addressed to.
He said he's doing what the minimum is, 51 spaces?
Yes.
For 180 people,
Well, no, that's not what he said.
for
I don't
180
think.
seats.
I think he said 150, but correct me if I'm wrong.
It's 180 is the,
180.
100 in
Thank
the
you.
building, 150
I
in
just
third.
wanted to point out, and I wanted to ask the board, that at least 20 of those are going to be for employees to run this event.
So it's not up.
Not to mention the caterers, the
So,
photographers.
Mr. Gerlach, the board doesn't create the ordinance, right? That comes from the council.
All right. I'm
And-
just.
And when, but I
leaves
just want to explain, when
36
the
spaces
council.
For 180 people.
Yes, and when the council creates its parking requirements, it takes into consideration that there will be employees in the facility.
It doesn't sound like they did.
Well, but this board has to go by what the ordinance says.
Okay.
All right, and we'll hear, and you can ask our engineer when we get to that part too, right? Did they calculate it correctly to the ordinance? Right, that's our
I
charge.
believe he is.
Yeah.
He's playing by the rules. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I'm saying as they're constructed right now, what everybody's complaining about is it's not enough.
I think we
They're
understand.
using our
the-
street as their parking lot,
Yeah, we understand the complaint.
and they're going to valet their cars right down our street. And I'm just bringing that to
We
your
don't know that, so I appreciate your view, and you'll have an opportunity to say that again at the end, because you live there, you've experienced it, and you'll be able to
I
testify to it.
experience it every week.
Right. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. We have some additional questions.
Try to be on point. I have three questions.
And
Just
your
please,
name?
your name and address.
Roy Wheeler, Wheeler, 22 Charlotte Drive.
Okay.
So-
Mr. Wheeler?
My one question is, do we know what the exact width is of Charlotte Drive East?
The exact width of the pavement, I don't,
The street, right?
yeah, no, I don't have the exact width on the plan.
Does the township know? Does the township know that question?
So, Rob, I would point out that your plan says it's a 50-foot right-of-way?
Yeah, I thought he was referring to the width
Yeah.
of the curb.
No, the actual pavement.
That's what I mean, the pavement
Yeah.
width. That's
So
what
from
I'm
curb to
trying
curb?
I just don't have
Width
it
of the
dimensioned
street.
on the drawing.
Yeah, we only have the right-of-way width.
Yeah.
We don't know, is that? Is that the average for a street in Bridgewater? Is it below average?
For a residential road, it's probably average.
Probably average, okay. The current plan, I know you addressed this.
Again, speak into the microphone, but you're doing fine, just,
Wish I had one I could just walk.
yeah, I know, right?
The current plan, you talked about staging area for parking, valet.
Yes.
And could you just show that again, what your thought might be, what that's
So
going to?
the idea, and maybe you weren't able to see what I was pointing to, but the idea is we have a one-way drive aisle in the front of the building here on 202. So the intent is that the vehicles would circulate around either from the entrance on Charlotte Drive East or from Charlotte Drive West, and we'd queue them in the front here for valet purposes. So you have that roadway along the front of the building there for staging for valet.
Right. So I'm sure all the residents know that currently, traffic comes, like you said, in off 202 into the parking lot. It sometimes drives right through the parking lot and pulls right out into the street. If there is oncoming traffic, and this has happened to me many times, if I'm coming off of 202 onto Charlotte, I can be encountering a car coming right out of that parking lot. And that's
I
pretty
think-
dangerous.
Because, again, however the situation is now, the purpose of the plan here is to try to improve that situation. And what we're doing is providing an entrance off of Charlotte Drive West, so that this way, those vehicles that, again, once people get to know the property and see the new configuration, maybe they're not going to pull right off of 202 anymore. The intent is for them to come off of 202 at Charlotte Drive West and pull into the property here. If they miss it, now we'll have the entrance off Charlotte Drive East where they can circulate around, as opposed to what's there today.
You also testified that the adjacent property, the limousine, we'll call it the limousine property, because that's what's being parked there now. There's a third property that's owned by the same owner as the restaurant. You're testifying that there will be no overflow parking into that parking lot?
The testimony is that's not part of this application, and we're not proposing any parking on that property.
But it could happen.
We're not proposing any parking on that property.
But it could happen.
We can't say that, honestly. You can say it, but we
can say
can't
it
say
could
it.
happen. That's not definitive.
Right, and I appreciate what you're saying, but at the same time, we're really bound by what we call a quasi-judicial process, so we're trying to keep the questions on point with the engineer, holding your testimony till the end, because we do want your opinion and your experiences, but it's just not appropriate now. So I don't want to discourage you from having those thoughts and ideas, and I do want to encourage you to come back at the time when the presentation is done and we have an opportunity for the public to offer more broadly their comments and experiences and observations.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I just want to have one last follow-up question on the size of the width of the street. You say it is average for a residential street in Bridgewater?
In conferring with Mr. Burr, it's probably average. There might be right-of-way or pavement widths that are larger or smaller than that. That's why I said probably. I don't have an exact, analysis.
But for a commercial commercial property in a residential area, are there any variances, just changes that need to be approved or not?
On a
I think I don't want to interrupt your thought process, but what I would like to offer is that each property is unique, and the board has to make a decision based on the parameters of that property. So whether there are other average-sized roads or they're not is irrelevant to us in making this decision.
Right.
It might be good information, but it can't affect our decision.
But it'll be part of the decision, I would imagine.
I'm sorry?
It would be part of your decision when you
Not
approving or
not
not
on other properties, not on other sites. We're looking at this site in
No, no, right,
particular,
right,
based on their request.
Right. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Please.
I just ask a question, I guess, with their questions and my confusion, where are these cars going to be valeted to? Are they going to the rear lot and double stacked, or?
Well, the intent right now is they would be valeted onto the property. That's what, that's.
I understand, but you've got parking spots back there.
Yes, so.
But the only way to valet a large number of cars would be to double stack them.
Well, the intent here is that we meet I said we meet the ordinance requirements before.
And I understand the ordinance, but when you bring up valet parking,
We would park them in the striped spaces on the property. That was the intent of the valet. So this way, at least patrons will be valeted into those spaces. They won't have to park there themselves and come to the entrance, during the busier times.
If I may follow up on that, having been a person who's just listened to both meetings, somewhere in those two meetings, someone mentioned that they would valet into the additional lot on the other side of Charlotte Drive East, if necessary.
And if I remember my testimony correctly, we talked about that as something that might be able to happen, but then we changed our discussion and said it's not part of this application. We're not proposing to do that. So it was a question that was brought up. We said, oh yeah, maybe that was an option to do that. We talked about it and then came back and said we're not doing that as part of this application.
Okay, so that's clear.
Yes.
Well, I've got the microphone more or less. How are you planning to keep cars from exiting onto 202 that have driven around the building and decided that they're going to go out onto 202 as opposed to out on either Charlotte East or West?
Well, we feel that the way the traffic circulation is going to go here is that in the end of the evening, that they'll be able to pull out onto Charlotte Drive East and drive across this intersection right here and then head out onto 202, eastbound. So they'll be able to do that. We're not going to have them pull out directly onto 202 here. We're going to have them go back out the exit lane here on Charlotte Drive East.
What is your plan for preventing them from being able to do that?
We don't want to prevent them. We want them to actually do that when they leave at the end of the evening.
Yeah, but to that gentleman's point, you're exiting into oncoming traffic. If I'm now entering Charlotte East and you're now coming out as I'm coming in, you're setting that up for a...
Well, there's also, too, there's adequate sight distance when you're looking at 202 coming down the highway there, and and our traffic engineer...
Please.
And our traffic
Wait a
engineer-
minute. I get to do that, but kidding aside, we just want to have an orderly conversation. We want to be courteous to our guests, both the applicant and the people who are presenting, and I'm sure you can appreciate that as well. Thank you.
And our traffic engineer will speak to the traffic flow and how there's going to be gaps in traffic because of the traffic light that's just down the street, so on and so forth. So I don't want to get into traffic testimony, but he's going to talk about how they'll be able to make that movement and go back out to Charlotte, to go back out to 202 in an eastbound direction.
Yeah, and I think it's appropriate to wait for your traffic engineer to discuss that further. So with that said, I'm sorry, did you have more, Ms. Rose?
Just to be clear, the plan is for people to come in off of 202 to access the handicap spots in the front of the restaurant, and those that come in off of 202 that are indeed wanting to either park or valet are driving around the building to the front of the building.
That is correct. If they missed Charlotte Drive West, they would drive around the building and then come in on the backside.
Okay.
Yes.
And your testimony is that valet parking will occur in the slots on the west side of the building.
That's the intent, to use this drive lane here to stage the cars for valet when they come in.
And the valet parking itself will occur, they'll drop the cars off in the slots that are to the west of the building.
Well, the valets would basically drive the cars around and park them in the parking spaces, yes.
To the west of the building.
To the west and to the south, in all the striped parking spaces.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So with that said, we have a patient member of the public waiting to introduce themselves and ask some questions.
My name is Jill Ferrante, Ferrante, and I live at 6 Charlotte Drive.
If you move that down, you'll be more comfortable and you won't have to strain your neck, so.
And I'm sorry, your address again, please?
6 Charlotte.
6, thank you.
And your first name?
Jill.
Jill, thank you.
I just wanted to clarify, you guys plan on having 180 people in the building with 51 parking spaces?
We have 180 seats. With
180
51
seats.
parking
Okay.
spaces, yes.
And how many of those parking spots will be handicap parking?
There's 3 handicap parking spaces.
Okay. So in the last meeting, you mentioned that even though there's only 51 parking spots, when you guys do valet parking, you might park the cars closer than what the lines allow. How do you plan for other people's vehicles to not get damaged if you guys are parking them closer than what the lines allow them to?
That is an operational item for the valets to deal with.
And currently, right now, there's about a 40-foot snowbank that when it was plowed, if you only allow for 51 spots, where do you guys plan to plow the snow?
Again, that'll be an operational item with the maintenance folks to remove snow from the property when they have events so that cars can park there.
And if
So wait, I'm sorry, but on that point, would you be agreeable to a condition that in the event, well, a condition that plowed snow could not occupy any parking space?
Yes.
You also mentioned that in the valet parking, that they would be in the front, and that's also where the handicap parking would be. How would you prevent any pedestrians or valet people from getting hit from any oncoming traffic going into the building to pull directly into those spaces like people currently do now?
And what people currently do today is not what this plan represents tomorrow. Remember, those
Is there
spaces
gonna be a
remember those spaces
raise?
that are in front of the building are regular parking spaces right now. So people can pull right off 202 and pull into those spaces, which is probably what they do today.
They do.
The purpose of this plan is to change the way it's being used and operated.
So is there going to be a change in the curb there so that people can no longer pull in directly that way?
We're not changing the curb because, again, that's regulated by DOT, and it exists today, and we're leaving that curb the way it is. But the way it's going to function and operate is going to be different now. These spaces are going to be handicap spaces. They're not used as frequently as regular spaces, number one. Number two, to answer your other question, we've got the ability for valets to walk around the property. You've got sidewalks both in the front of the building and on the side of the building so that the valets can work in a safe environment and be able to have people come out of their cars, walk onto the sidewalk, get into the building, and they can get in those cars and drive them around the property and park them where they need to park them.
Okay, so if this building is going to be as big as you say, and there's a fire on all the way to the west side of the building, where would you anticipate for an ambulance to get through with all the valet parking or a fire truck?
Again, if there's a fire, that's going to be a safety issue for the fire department. Cars are parked in parking spaces. The parking lot's designed to allow a fire truck to maneuver through it.
And valet
Okay,
will
and if-
have all the keys to all of the cars.
And if there's an incident that occurs, the valets will, if there's cars lined up here, I'm sure the valets will move those cars if there's an incident where a fire department is arriving on the property. Keep in mind too that if the fire department's called, if an ambulance is called, they have response time, they need to get there, there'll be an opportunity for the management to deal with moving any vehicles in the front of the site and be able to accommodate things accordingly. So it's not as if all of a sudden the building's on fire and that they can't move cars in front, and that doesn't usually happen that way. There's a timing and operation to things, and they'll be able to move cars. If there's cars lined up here, the valets can move them. The site's designed so that fire trucks can maneuver around the site, so that this way, if they need to get on the property, they can do that.
Do you know where the closest fire hydrant is to that building?
I'd have to look at the plans. I don't have it right.
I'll tell you where it is. It's right in front of my house, and people park right in front of it all the time. So I don't understand how you guys plan to get fire trucks in there if people are parked on both sides and you can't even get to the fire hydrant.
Again, I can't speak to why people are parking in front of a fire hydrant.
It happens all the time. We call the police
So
and nothing happens.
testimonies for another time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question. I need to be very clear about this. Are you saying that valet will be using the fire access aisle for parking cars?
No, I did not say that. I said the valets would be using this drive lane to stage cars while people drop off and to be able to get in and out of their cars and then take them and park them on the property. So they're using the drive lane to stage. That's typical of any type of restaurant that has valets. They do that. They stage in the front of the building.
Okay, so only for that very temporary condition.
Right. When for example, a party is going to start at, let's say, 7 o'clock, and again, I'm into operations, but people are going to be showing up before, right after it starts. That's when they're going to be pulling in there. But then after that, the cars are parked, and it's pretty much open at that point.
Okay. Sorry, your testimony got me a little nervous there because
Yeah, no, we're not.
let's say there's a fire where all the keys are being held. I mean, how are you going to get the keys?
No, we're not going to be parking cars in the drive lane here, and then you can't get around
Okay.
the building.
Thank you.
Are there other members of the public who would like to address Mr. Michello and his engineering testimony?
Sharon Barnes.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to say that again because the microphone didn't pick it up, I don't think.
Sharon Barnes, B-A-R-N-E-S.
Right, and you could adjust the mic so you don't have to do the limbo there for yourself.
I'm shrinking with age. but I'm
And,
not-
and your address too, please.
38 Charlotte Drive. Okay, I don't think it was mentioned before, but it kind of goes along with this whole traffic flow thing. Did anybody mention about putting signs, like when you're coming and going from the east and west, like behind the building, or where you're trying to drive around it to do the parking, that when you're coming out on the east side, there would be a sign that says, no right turn, that you can only go towards the highway. And then when you're coming out the west side, no left turn. So, and then when they're coming into Charlotte Drive, on either side, no through traffic signs, so that the whole, Charlotte Drive isn't bombarded with people going all around the block, if they miss where they're supposed to be. So that might control the traffic flow a little bit better.
Mr. Michello, so you heard the question.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if in your previous testimony you had mentioned anything about specific signage, but is that a question you'd be able to answer from Ms. Barnes here?
I thought we might have talked about this at the last meeting, but we did mention that we could, and it's not something that we had decided upon yet, but we could do a no right turn restriction going to the east and then a no left turn restriction going to the west, so that this way people leaving the property would be directed back to 202 and not, for argument's sake, turn and go around the neighborhood. So yes, I think we did mention that we can look into doing that.
And then on the streets, the entrance into the street themselves, for people who don't do valet parking, put no through traffic signs so people don't think, oh, I'm going to go out and I'll cut through to get to.
So we can't put any signs on the street. You'd have to go to the council and ask them permission to do that. We can only put signs on our own property.
Okay.
We can restrict the turns, we can restrict things coming out of our property, but we can't put signage on the local streets without council
Okay.
approval.
And then I did need clarification, because you were right. At the end of one of the meetings, it was close to the end, and it came up that, because, there's bound to be overflow, we have this other lot. And it was like kind of left, because it was near the end, that it said, oh, well, that changes everything. We got to relook at the whole application, because now we might have a third lot in the picture. And that's what I thought we were going to come in here and hear about, how that third lot was going to help with the parking. But now you're saying you never even.
Well, no, we talked about that, but at the end of the last meeting, we said that that lot is not part of this application.
My takeaway from that meeting was we're going to address it. And so you did a takesy-backsy thing.
No, I think the issue that was raised is if we were to use that other lot, it would have to become part of the application. You'd have to renotice for it, and it's another use variance. So it was a legal issue, and we're not going to do that. We don't want to expand the application any further.
Okay, so then, really then, we still just need, and it may not be right now, but at some future or whenever I don't know, whenever we do it again at another time, you never did answer the question about the overflow. What is the procedure for when you do have overflow, how is it handled? So I know you didn't answer that, but maybe my question to the board would be is, how do other Bridgewater commercial people, or companies or restaurants or whatever, how do they handle, what is the procedure that they have to follow in Bridgewater? If they followed the ordinance and it's 50 parking spaces is enough, what do other places do to control overflow? Are they required by an ordinance to say if there is an overflow, they turn people away, or they take the valet parking off-site? Or what is Bridgewater's ordinance for that?
So the ordinance is just the number of required parking spaces based on seats here, right? There's no ordinance that says if you overflow, you have to bring it someplace else. So, and this board doesn't produce witnesses to say what's typical or what's done elsewhere, right? The applicant is presenting their application, and they are advising the board as to what their procedure will be.
Okay, but since we kind of all know there's going to be overflow, I mean, it's just a given because there's overflow now, and then if you're multiplying it by,
Well, I think there you're testifying as well, so that, you can pose a question to Mr. Michello that might say something like, if there is overflow, do you have a plan to address it? And then that'll either be, he can either answer it or defer it, but you might want to pose it that way.
a question for along those lines was, have you, in your planning, considered doing the valet parking over at the Wegmans, like that big commercial high-rise building that nobody ever parks there? Have you coordinated with them to do your valet parking there?
No, we have not coordinated with any third-party sites for off-site valet parking. The
Would
intent
you
the intent is to
consider,
park on site.
would you consider that as an option?
We don't think it's going to be necessary, and we'll have our traffic engineer and the operations person go through that and why we don't think we need it.
Okay, well, I think the traffic, when the traffic engineer comes, there will be a lot of questions for him.
I'm sure.
I guess my other, I think my other question is, and this is probably for him as well, is I don't know if, it's hard to explain, but the Wegmans light there helps with the flow because it stops the traffic from 202 to going towards the circle. But the people on Charlotte Drive, it could take 5 or 10 minutes to get out of the road if you miss that light, or if it's a busy time, rush hour. You could wait 2-3 light cycles, 5 minutes easy to get out of Charlotte Drive. So I am interested in the traffic engineering, their study done to say, how is that not going to back up 202? I mean, and the valet parking, the flow of that it's just to get on and off of 202 is, how do you prevent the backup? So that's just,
And I think our traffic engineer
your
will
traffic
answer.
guy a
Yes, he
heads
will
up.
answer those questions.
yeah, give them a heads up. And then, let's see. Well, I think other people want to talk. I have a whole bunch. I guess the last question is, if 79.4%, if we make that the precedent, then does that mean that every time somebody else in the future comes in, then they have a more likely chance of being approved for that same variance? So that
No, it would not set a precedent. Every property is unique into itself, and each application is looked at that way. So it's not really precedent setting.
But I think somebody had said, one of the meetings, that nobody has ever asked for this much of a ratio variance before. but it's,
I think I recall something like that, but it's mostly posed so that the applicant can justify their position as to what their plan is. So it's more a rhetorical device than it is an actual statement.
yeah, so, and then maybe the other thing would just be the height of the trees on the back thing. I think they had mentioned they were only going to be like 6 feet, but between the noise and the light and the smells and stuff, couldn't we make it so that they come in at least 12 feet? Enough so whatever would block from that rooftop thing would block the, it not going into the kid's bedroom at night.
We were proposing them between 6 and 7 foot high, initial planting height, but then in 2-3 years, they're going to grow to probably 10 to 12
Yeah,
foot
but
in
that's
height.
2 to 3 years, the kid could be, live growing up with that for 2 to 3 years. If you're a kid, that's not right. You should make it so that it's at least 12 feet right off the bat, and then maybe you'll get higher from there. And you're going to be making money, so make them higher trees.
We can take a look at the landscaping and see what we can do there.
Are you serious? You kind of didn't sound serious.
Well, now you're veering away from your questions, but we do appreciate your questions.
Okay. so
Thank you.
Consider that as an out of.
The applicant will consider it. He's just.
The applicant will consider it, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Welcome, and please state your name and address.
My name is Robert Schwarzkopf. I don't actually live on Charlotte Drive. My mom does live there since 1969 at 45 Charlotte Drive. And my spelling is SCHWARZKOPF.
K-O-B.
E as in Peter, F as in Frank.
P-F.
Saying that a lot.
Any relation to the general? No, I'm just kidding.
Same spelling, Uncle Norman.
And Ms. Jennings, same question as one of our first.
No issue, that's.
Okay, thank you.
When you're seeking 10 variances and 6 design waivers, and you're funneling traffic onto Charlotte Drive, you have potential overflow of parking. I was wondering if you could list any of the positive criteria for the residents of Charlotte Drive that this proposed project would bring.
I think as we started off, that would be a question for our planner to answer as the positive criteria.
Planning question?
Yeah, it is.
Correct. Mhm.
And all traffic questions, like a DOT permit?
We have a traffic engineer, yep.
Are there times when you would actually design more parking spaces than what the ordinance would require?
And it goes back to what we're trying to accomplish for a particular project. So again, every project is different.
And, Mr. Schwarzkopf, when an applicant designs more parking than what's required, then there's other issues that could be raised, like additional impervious coverage and drainage, and so, it's a little
I mean, if there were more
balancing
space,
act.
do you think you might include more spaces?
As I said before, every site is different in the way you design it. So you try to tend to work with the room that you have in terms of what you're providing.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public? Somebody's waving at me, so please come on up. Name and address, and if you're comfortable, you can move the mic so that you're ready to talk.
Good evening. My name is Agnieszka Szymanowska. I reside at 47 Charlotte Drive, which is adjacent to the church property.
Okay, would you spell your name, please? First and last?
First name, it's Agnieszka. Last name, Szymanowska.
Thank you very much.
We still won't be able to say it, but thank you. And I'm Polish, so I don't know.
Just wanted to ask a few questions, and if you're not the correct person, forgive me. But in terms of landscaping.
Yes.
Currently, there's a very mature tree right about on the border of, or on the property line, I would think, between my property and the church's property. What's the plan for this tree?
So is your property the property immediately to the south? You're adjacent to this?
Adjacent, right, so I'm on the Charlotte West.
Is
right?
this your house right here?
Yes.
Yes, that's,
Okay.
yes, it's down
Yep.
right there, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the plans to see, there's a couple trees that are identified right on the property line that's, are you talking about right in this corner right here?
A little bit to the left. It's more, yeah, it's right where, if I may go over.
Please.
Yeah, point it out.
Mr. Michelle, if you share your mic with her, that might help us.
So the tree that I'm referring to is currently not shown on the design plan
Yes.
right here. But there is a very mature bushes right here, which, partially overflows to the church's property as well as mine.
Okay.
We have been maintaining those for 11, 12 years since we've been living there. And as well as the very mature tree, which is residing right on the border of the property line, which, again, it's probably 50-50 split. I would hate to lose that tree because of the 3 stories proposed rooftop bar, which the tree will provide me with some noise blockage, and it's just, I would hate to lose a mature tree that also provides me with shading, et cetera, and comfort to my living.
Mr. Michelle, are you familiar with the trees that the, how's your first name pronounced again?
You can call me Agnes, but it's
Agnes?
Agnieszka. Yes, but Agnes is fine.
Okay. So can you talk to her about her trees that were on the property line or close to it?
I'm looking at the survey to see if the trees were located or identified along that property line. I don't see any on here. That doesn't mean that it's not there. Again, we didn't do the original survey, but what I will offer up is we are proposing some landscaping along there, evergreen trees, as the other person asked me about. But if there's a tree that's right on the property line, and we'll call it a 50-50 tree for that matter, if it's sitting right there on the property line, we're going to want to take another look at that, and if that tree can be saved, we want to save that tree. I don't think we want to, if it's a large enough tree, if it's a nice tree, we want to keep it. If it's into our property 7 or 8 feet, and it's on our property, that's different. We're going to remove that tree for the development. But if you're telling me that there's trees right along this property line right here, and you're maintaining them, and you can see them in the aerial imagery that's on the plan right here, and if it's right on that property line, and there's a way we can keep that tree, I think we want to work with the applicant to work with the resident to do that. I don't want to take the tree down if it's a nice tree and it's providing you screening and buffering. It's not going to be, that tree is not going to impact our construction of the building. It's not going to impact our construction of the parking lot, but if it's right on the line, I want to keep that. So I would offer to take a look at that and see what's there along that property line and confirm that we can keep those trees that are, I'll call them the 50-50 trees that are literally right on that property line.
And just for my own clarification again, what criteria you would look at to make that decision if the tree stays or goes?
Well, where the property line is in relation to
Oh,
the
okay.
tree, the actual property line itself. So I think there might be a corner marker out there. I don't remember, but we would look at the exact property line location and see where that tree is. If it's on your property, we're not touching it. It's your tree.
Understood,
We're not
yeah.
going to touch that tree. But if it's on our property, if it's a few feet into our property, it's probably going to have to be removed for our construction. But if it's right on the line, we'll look at that, assess it, and if we can keep it, we want to keep it.
Okay. And as far as the fencing, is that the question for you as well? or-
Fencing, we're proposing fencing along the property line. And I know there was some debate about where the fence was going to be located. We talked about either putting it right on the right now we show it kind of in the middle between the property line and the curbing. There was talk about whether we should push it closer to the curb or push it right up against the property line. Again, that could be flexible. We could adjust that depending on what's the vegetation that's there and how that affects your property since you're right next to the property line.
Right, so I just wanted to ask that question for my own clarification, whether, how closely, because I do have a fenced-in backyard. The front yard is not fenced in, but the backyard is. Is how close is it going to be to my current fence? And also, is it going to be fenced in your property all the way down to the curb?
The intent
The
was
Charlotte
the
driveway.
intent was to take the fencing just past the curb line here, so that any cars that are parked there would be blocked by the fence. So if your fence is, maybe I think that might be your fence right there on the
Exactly. It
plan.
ends right there,
So
yeah.
your fence stops here at the corner. We wanted to continue our fence down just past this parking spot, so you had additional
Understood.
screening of the parking spaces to your
And
property.
in terms of the height of the fence, I think it was, the average is 6 feet, I believe.
We're proposing a 6-foot fence.
Is there any way to have a variance for that? Actually, I'm proposing to have it higher, so it would provide me with more blockage to the noise, and I have a testimony for when the testimony time is here
Yes.
regarding the noises that has been going on for years from the property.
Right now, Mr. Michello will comment on the fence heights, but he'll also, I think that you were talking with our planner or perhaps our engineer about not having finalized the design for the fence and the shrubbery that was either going to be in front of it or behind it or sandwiched it. To be honest, I wasn't sure myself what you came up with.
I don't know if we actually settled on a final conclusion as to where we're going to put the fence versus the landscaping. If, we tried to do something where we're going to try to split it in the middle and have the fence set a little further back from the property line and put the landscaping in front of the fence. But I think we were going back and forth on what would be the best way. And I think we might have settled on, if I remember correctly, the fence would be on the property line and the landscape would be behind the fence. And ultimately, that landscape would grow up, higher, higher to be above the fence.
Right.
Understood.
So we heard your request. Certainly, Mr. Michello will consider it. And then we'll have to talk to our professionals as well to see if it can be done legally. And then we'll move on from there if that's acceptable for now.
Understood. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all for now.
Yeah, and just on that point, I can tell you that the board, in conjunction with the applicant, could agree that the fence would be higher. It's another variance, but it doesn't have to be separately noticed. It's already in their notices, so, it's for discussion with the board.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there additional members? Did you have another question that you wanted to ask? Yep.
Terry Black, 10 Charlotte Drive. Did you just say that the fence is going to go to the curb? Did you just say that the fence is going to go to the curb?
No, I said the fence was going to go past the end of the curb just so we can block those vehicles that would be, pointing towards her home.
So the fence is going to be on the property line?
The fence is not going past the property line.
Okay, thank you.
It's not going to the curb line, if that's what you were asking.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome back.
Further testimony, I think I understand your.
I'm sorry, for the record, your name again, please?
Brittany Wheeler, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Michelle, I just want to give you kudos. I think you're doing a tremendous job trying to fit a square into a round hole. My questions are, the third story, can you just explain the variance that you're doing? I guess it's currently it's 2.5, 2.5
Well,
stories?
I mean, I think I testified to the ordinance requirements, 2.5 stories. And because of the way the definition is, the building is 3 stories in terms of the number of height, in terms of the height.
So you're seeking the third story for the rooftop bar?
Yes, yes.
Is the rooftop bar functionally necessary, or is it for economic optimization?
Yeah, I'm going to defer that to our architect, who's going to talk about operations.
Is it functionally necessary?
It's part of the application.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a question he can answer.
That's site engineering.
So somebody mentioned earlier about snow shoveling. If it's not going to be pushed into parking spaces, is it going to be pushed onto 202, Charlotte Drive East or Charlotte Drive West?
No, we did not state that. We said we would agree to a condition that the spaces would be made available after snow, so that the snow would, typically in a case like that, they're going to have a maintenance crew who's going to have to remove it from the property.
And when it's removed from the property, where would it be transported to?
It would be removed from the property.
It would be moved on to
put on a
Charlotte Drive
public
East or
street.
Charlotte Drive West. That's where it would be transported
It
to.
would not be put on a public street.
I did not say that.
Going back to some of the other variances, the trash enclosure. I believe the current ordinance is 20 feet from a property line, is that correct?
If that's what the ordinance, if that's what the request was, I'll agree to that, yes.
So your request, I believe, is 9.7 feet.
Yeah, the ordinance may be 20 and the setback is 9.7, correct?
That's what you're requesting?
Yes,
From a residential property line?
from a property line, yes.
So my neighbor who just testified earlier that her property is to the back, can you please point on that chart for me and the board where the trash enclosure is set to be 9.7 feet away from her property line?
The trash enclosure is shown right here on the plan, yes. And I believe there was some questions at the last meeting from the traffic engineer about possibly relocating the trash enclosure to a different portion of the property. I think he was talking about it in this location over here, and while we've taken a look at that, we think that might be a feasible alternative that we can certainly explore.
I would just implore that it be further than explored, it would be exercised on behalf of our neighbors. If members of this committee haven't already, I believe it was the first hearing when this application came up. Chairman Jeff Foose had been to the property earlier that day and noted a horrific smell that was emitting from the trash and requested that it be cleaned. So I just want it noted on public record that you guys don't have, not you, sir, but the property doesn't have a good track record of keeping the trash clean. And when it's 100 degrees out in the middle of August, and you have fish from that restaurant 9.7 feet away from a residential property, I don't know how this...
Well, you want to pose that as a question differently, or...
So my question, and this might sound like a ridiculous one, is there any studies with respect to smell?
Again, we don't do a study for smell.
But you do one for sound.
I don't do ones for sound, but we do have a sound.
There is so is that for your sound guy?
Yes, the sound consultant.
You don't have a smell guy?
We don't have a smell.
You don't have a
Not a smell guy, as far as we know. But I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think that there was some discussion about increasing the frequency of trash pickup on the property, that the applicant was willing to either do that or consider it. So that's something that we might revisit at that point and make it a condition, if this were to be approved, that be picked up, and then we'd have to choose a frequency that would be acceptable to both parties. And that would help attenuate just, garbage sitting there, so to speak.
Absolutely. And then a couple other points. My father previously brought up the measurement of the street for the township engineers, and the reason being is 20 years ago, our street was paved. 25 years ago was the last time our street was paved, and I was a little bit younger then, so I don't quite recall. But I believe that there was notification provided to residents that the town was seeking a variance, or I don't know the language, forgive me, maybe you guys can go back and look, but the street's actually smaller than what's required by the town for residential streets. And I don't have it now, I'll bring it back for the board at the appropriate time. But when you hear people talking about double parking on the street, sir, and that's why my dad was asking whether or not it was reflected on the chart, I think it should be taken into consideration in your planning. If this is true, that it is a smaller residential street than required, I don't know how that doesn't factor into your plan, particularly with the traffic and the new traffic patterns and the circulation. So I did want to flag that for the record.
I think Mr. Oler also referenced that there exists a right-of-way that the township maintains with respect to streets. So the amount of paved surface can be less, but can't be more, than the right-of-way. And so the paving that was done however long ago may have been done because it was a less frequently traveled road. I can only speculate, but the right-of-way exists, and that's 50 feet? Mr. Oler, is that what you said?
It's reflected as a 50-foot right-of-way on the plan.
So just
The plan
keep it-
doesn't show the paved area, only the right-of-way.
Right.
Okay, but wouldn't that be part of the calculus with the square footage and the traffic?
I think it has less to do with the applicant's calculus and more to do with the residents who live on the street. I mean, they also, quote, live on the street, and so they would have to cede that right-of-way if they were encroaching on it. So you might want to ask them a question like, do you encroach on the right-of-way?
I think we already know the answer to that one, sir.
So Ms. Wheeler, though, is that street alternate side of the street parking, or is it just double-side parking all the time?
If you give me 1 second, I can pull up a picture and give you guys copies.
No, I don't want to do that right now.
I
But,
said I'll wait
Yeah.
for the appropriate time, but
Yes.
there are dozens of pictures of double parking. School buses can't get through. I tried to Oprah request a 911 call where cops couldn't get through, or I'm sorry, an ambulance couldn't get through. I was denied that request by the police department, and I understand why. But there are records that exist with respect to emergency vehicles and school buses not being able to get through. And lastly, this is not so much a question, but I urge everybody on this board in your free time before our next meeting to go to this property and witness it for yourself. And I'll leave it at that.
I appreciate the suggestion. It's a common practice for board members to visit the property, so we don't want to put anybody on the spot, but everybody usually gets out and visits the property.
And one more question. I mentioned earlier about the shrub requirements. Would more shrubs on the property not be beneficial to the applicant with respect to the noise from a third-story bar with live music?
Well, shrubs are 3-4 foot high. It's not going to have any bearing on a bar that may have music going on. And again, I'll leave to the operation of the bar and music and so forth to our architect, but shrubs around a foundation of a building is not going to affect the impact of noise.
And they're going to have their acoustic engineer address us as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So it's about 10 minutes to 9, give or take. I would like to take a 10-minute break and reconvene. Mr. Michello, well, let me just ask the public, are you done with your questions for Mr. Michello, or do you want to squeeze one in real fast because everybody's dying to go to the bathroom?
Mr. Chairman, can I squeeze one question in?
Oh, sure, but
Yep, so that Mr. Michello doesn't have to return. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Agnieszka Szymanowska, coming back to ask more questions. In regards to the garbage disposal, yes, it's been horrendous this past.
now I have to just stop you for a second. We've acknowledged that there is an issue and that the applicant has tried to, or is discussing ways to mitigate that issue. I think they were talking about the location of the trash containers, and that Mr. Michello, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that you would consider moving it from where it's proposed, which is, I'm guessing, right next to your property?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to a different location.
Yes. And also, I have to say that the applicant had increased the pickup. However, the pickup occurs at 2:30 in the morning.
I'm sure that can be addressed as well by the applicant.
I mean,
Okay, I heard you.
yes, we can impose a condition on pickup
please.
time.
I mean, anything past 6 a.m. will work.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, Ms. Armad, you had a question.
I just had one question for Mr. Michello. Mr. Michello, did you undertake a title search for the property by any chance?
No, we did not.
I just bring that up because in the chain of title, in some of the previous deeds, there is a reference to a restriction or inclusion of part of Charlotte Drive East and the right-of-way, and then a restriction in a deed, which I can't locate. It's on file with Somerset County. It seems to be from a long time ago, but there seems to be some sort of restriction. And I would like to ask you if you could look into that to figure out what that is.
Do you happen to know the deed book and page?
Sure, it's book N-24,
Go ahead.
page 207.
We'll see what we can find on that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Catherine, that was M as in Mary?
N as in Nancy.
Nancy, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no additional questions at the moment, we conclude that Mr. Michello is done with his testimony? I'm going to say yes, we can. Ms. Jennings, you agree?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we will take a 10-minute break and then we'll reconvene shortly. Thank you.
I don't know if I actually got it right.
So thank you, everyone, for indulging us during the break. Would like to reconvene. And Nancy, may we have a roll call, please? Here?
Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Here. Very well. Thank you very much. Welcome back, members of the public or applicant. Ms. Jennings, I'm going to turn it to you, and we are going to be introducing
The architect.
the architect.
Yes, Craig. So maybe we have him introduce himself and get him sworn in, we can begin.
Please stand and raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your full name for the record?
My name is Craig J. Kalasian, Kalasian.
Thank you.
If you give the board the benefit of your background and qualifications?
So I'm a registered architect in the state of New Jersey and several other states. I have a practice in Chester, New Jersey, not far from here. I've recently testified in front of multiple boards, including Mount Olive and Morristown, as well as other boards all across the country.
And your license is current?
My license is current.
And with the state of New Jersey?
Correct.
Thank you.
Boards accept his qualifications?
We do accept his qualifications. Thank you.
Thanks. And just for the record, your office prepared the floor plans and elevations?
Yes.
And if you could, you've heard a lot of questions that have been going out, and we keep saying the architect will answer that, the architect will answer that. So why don't you...
Yeah, if we could bring everybody back up to answer the questions. Love that. So just a quick background and introduction about my firm and experience. I'm a hospitality design architect. Most of my projects focus on restaurants, resorts, hotels, banquet spaces, so this is my particular area of expertise. And then just for context, I also own and operate a restaurant in Chester, New Jersey, and I own and operate various hospitality businesses throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I mention that because when everybody's saying I'm going to speak about operations, I want you to know it's from personal experience, and I can speak to the way that the building is designed, and that's largely what I'm going to talk about. A lot of the speculation and things that I've heard, I want to respond to some of that, just to kind of clarify some of the points that have been brought up. And I appreciate all the public testimony. It's certainly very helpful in understanding, what we're trying to solve here. So just kind of very briefly, I've been working on this project since 2022. And it took us a couple of years to work with ownership on a proposal that we felt improved the site. As everybody knows, there's 2 separate structures currently on the site. One of the things I want to mention is that it was previously testified that the church site has 12 parking spaces and that currently the Cafe Amelia site has 27 parking spaces. What was not brought up was that the existing church building has signs posted inside for an occupancy of 100 persons, 70 upstairs, 30 downstairs. I believe they had a daycare downstairs. And that the Amelia site has equal occupancy inside and outside. It was also questioned under previous testimony about the outdoor dining seats, which were made permissible during the pandemic and memorialized in a ruling, in a bill signed by Governor Murphy in November of '24. So in that bill, any outdoor seats which were granted during COVID were memorialized as allowed to be permanent. As it was previously testified, we lost, I think it was 5 parking spaces for the outdoor seats, but I say that only to say that the current occupancy of the site, and I use occupancy other than seats, because really the code stipulates occupancy of how many persons can occupy a building. We don't have fixed seats in the buildings. So I don't go by seats, we go by occupancy because that's how we calculate egress width and fire life safety requirements. But currently the site has an occupancy of 242 persons allowable with only 39 parking spaces. The proposal that we're advocating for at present is a site occupancy of 180 persons with 51 parking spaces. So I believe the question came up that we're proposing a more intense use. We're actually trying to decrease the intensity of the site by,
Just for my understanding, you're combining what you talked about being the church occupancy and Cafe Amelia's occupancy to get your 242?
correct.
Okay. And then you're talking about the current proposal, which would include the restaurant and the new banquet facility at 180.
Correct. We're trying to consolidate the two assembly uses into a less intensive overall.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that because I know, obviously visually, there's a lot of speculation about what's going to go on there, and I'm going to talk about the building. But from a pure number standpoint, our goal is to get cars off of Charlotte Drive by increasing the parking spaces. If you guys want to allow us to have more impervious coverage, we'd love to have more spaces, but that's, our goal is to try to balance the two. And so I just also want to say that some of the variances we're asking for drive the other waivers in terms of things like landscaping. Obviously, we could put more landscaping, but that would then potentially allow us to lose parking spaces. So it's all kind of a push and pull. But our overall goal is to decrease the intensity of the site, get more cars off of the street, and manage the overall site more efficiently. That being said,
When you say site, you're talking about the new site, not
the combined site, yes.
combined sites.
Yes.
And that the church is currently being used today? There isn't intensity and a use there at all?
The church is currently vacant, but there's signs in the church from the previous tenant that allow the amount of users I said.
So it's not, but the church is not contributing to anything happening today.
But it could.
But it could be leased tomorrow to another
Whether
group who
I'm
occupies it
just,
tomorrow.
when's the last time it contributed to something in the area?
I believe it was occupied last year.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
So your 242 existing, that's based upon square footage?
That's based on allowable occupancy. So for
Okay.
example, in a church space, the calculation allows for concentrated tables and chairs of 7 square feet per person. So just let's say it was 700 square feet inside the church. That use allows for an occupancy of 100, provided the egress requirements can be met.
Okay, and then you're comparing that to 180 seats?
Occupants.
So that's the occupant load?
Correct.
Maximum
Yeah.
occupant load?
The occupant load, correct. Because the use of any assembly space is flexible. So for example, you might have a banquet room that's set up for a trade show, and there might be 12 tables and a bunch of people walking around. You might have it set up for a lecture. There might be fixed tables and chairs. You might have it set up for a social function. So you can't go by seats because the seats always change. So you have to go by allowable occupants. All right. I'd like to talk a little bit about the design. I've handed out some plans that we've prepared that show the program of the building.
I don't know if those were previously marked into evidence, so we were.
Is that what's on your easel?
Yeah, it's on the easel. I saw some, you guys have them up there.
We have a plan, starts with sheet A 1.00.
Correct. And then A 201.
2.01, right?
Those are the plans, yep.
Yeah.
I've also handed out copies to the public, if that's okay, just so everyone's looking at the same thing.
And it has a 10/1/25 date, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the plan we have, and that's what's on your easel?
Correct.
Okay, so we don't have to mark what's on the easel?
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you guys have the same ones? I'm looking at the 10/1/25. I also want to note that we've modified these plans from the original application. After our first meeting, we reduced this, and this is testified previously, we reduced the size of the building. We increased we decreased the impervious coverage, and we decreased the size of the courtyard between the buildings. I also want to point out that the building is designed to support the operation of the facility as a whole, and 60% of the building are what we call support spaces. They don't have any occupancy. So things like restrooms, coat room, elevator lobby, stairs, elevator, back of house banquet service, storage, all of these spaces aren't intended to house users or occupants. They're meant to support the operations of the building. So there was some questions previously as to why is the building so big, or why does it have to be this size? It's this size because it's designed to support the operation, and the operation is not intended to try to just cram as many people in the building. We're trying to, run an efficient business here. Just by comparison, the building was called large at a previous testimony. Compared to most banquet facilities, this is actually quite small. For example, the only other banquet facility in Bridgewater, which is the Bridgewater Marriott, has over 18,000 square feet of meeting space. We're proposing about 2,000. Their largest ballroom is 8,500 square feet. Ours is 2,100 square feet. So as far as banquet facilities go, this is actually quite small. And like I said, we've reduced the size compared to the original submission.
I don't want to interrupt your flow, but did you take a look at the Bridgewater Manor as well as banquet space, or did you not include that in your reference?
I did not include that in my reference.
Thank you.
I wasn't able to get the data on those rooms. But I suspect it's larger than 2,000 square feet.
I wouldn't comment either way. I just wanted to know whether you included it.
Sure. And as I mentioned, the banquet space is intended to be used for a variety of functions. The need for this space actually is driven largely by requests from corporate clients. It's been supposed that the need is going to be mostly social, but we actually anticipate the bulk of the use to happen during the day from business clientele, who currently are clients of Cafe Amelia and have stated that they would welcome a larger space to hold training and things like that. So the bulk of the thing driving our desire to build the space is really from local corporate clients. Although I'm sure there will be some social business, it's not really the main driver for the project. I also want to point out there's been a lot of questions about noise and noise pollution. The entire plan south of the building, so I guess it would be the kind of bottom of the plan, those are all support spaces which have no public occupancy at all. So this idea that there's going to be people kind of partying along the bottom side of the plan, what you have along the bottom side of the plan is the kitchen, which will have 5 people at maximum working in it, the staging service area, the elevator lobby, the stair, and the elevator. There are no windows on the south side of the building, so any opportunity for there to be open windows, noise, loud music, that's just not currently, as part of the plan. There is no rooftop bar. After our first application, we removed the rooftop bar and made it an enclosed space. And similar to the other floors, there's no windows or any sort of openings on the south side of the building where the bar is intended to go. The bar is on the north side of the building that is closer to Route 202. So we don't anticipate any noise filtering. There's also no space planned for live music like a band or anything like that. If you look at the plan on sheet 202, you can see there's just a bar, some open space in front of the bar, and then an outdoor terrace, which is also blocked by the elevator and the elevator machine room, but is more intended for a small number of occupants, not kind of outdoor gathering space. So I just wanted to state that as well. In terms of the design, it's our intention to utilize the existing Cafe Amelia building rather than demolish it to propose a new building. We obviously think this is a more environmentally sound practice to reuse what's there, and we're using the style of the Cafe Amelia building to drive the architectural language of the new building in the kind of European stucco terracotta roof design. On the last page of our presentation, you'll see the original intended rendering is shown with these 4 arches and big windows, and you can see the new revised exterior rendering is much smaller and ties into the existing Cafe Amelia facade that's to the left of that arch. It should be noted that Cafe Amelia has been there for 26 years. In my opinion, does a really good job of maintaining the building. I think someone else from the public stated that they're very successful. I don't think anybody appreciates how difficult it is to run a restaurant for 26 years and be successful. I think that's a testament to the kind of discipline that they have for for what they do, and getting to know the team at Cafe Amelia, you might be surprised to find out it's the original chef and the original cooking team from when they opened. So this is not a high turnover business. This is not, you know, a revolving door of staff. I also want to speak a little bit to the question about parking for staff. The current Cafe Amelia staff is about 12 people. At any given point, there's 7 to 9 people working there. The only 2 people with cars are the chef and the manager. Everyone else is given a rideshare stipend to get to work. That is what currently happens. That is a fact. And that is what is planned to happen in the future should they have to expand staff. So there are not currently a lot of staff parking spaces needed. And then I'll also speak a little bit about the future staff plans as it relates to the way the facility is operated. With respect to the bar on the 3rd floor, it's intended to serve as an amenity for the banquet space or the restaurant, but not compete with either. We're not trying to operate 3 separate venues. If you go to a function, sometimes there's a cocktail hour or a pre-function before the function. That's the intention of the bar. Or if in certain winter months it's really slow, they might just operate one outlet, you know, without the other 2. It's not the intention that we're going to be running 3 outlets concurrently. In fact, if you look at our plan, you'd have to go through the banquet space to get to the elevator to go to the bar. So there's no way you're going to be serving, you know, a banquet group and then having the public traipse through there to get to the bar. It's just not the way the building is intended to work.
As you're describing the way the building functions and the way it was designed so that you have the, as you said, the south side with no windows and more meant to be space that's utilitarian and not an additional benefit perhaps is that it doesn't transmit any sound or the sound would be reduced there. Is it possible for you to point to some of the things that are on your drawing as you do that so we can follow along?
Sure.
When you're referencing the rooftop bar and how it functions and so on?
Sure. So this is what I'm referring to as the south side of the plan. The shaded building is Cafe Amelia. Someone asked how big Cafe Amelia was before. The actual building dimensions I have right here. It's basically 55 by 45. It's a regular shape, but it occupies that footprint. Yeah, it's 59 feet 5 inches on the longest side and 48 feet 9 inches on the other side. So this is the 59.5 dimension, and then left to right here is 48.9. It has a total square footage of about 1,900 square feet, which is almost equal to the proposed size of our banquet space. In between Cafe Amelia, which is here, and the proposed addition here, we have a courtyard which is intended to be a singular point of entry to both spaces. We had a larger courtyard, which resulted in a longer building before, but we shrunk it down. The idea with the courtyard is that if people need to go outside to smoke or vape or whatever people do, that they're not in the sight or sound of the neighbors. So this connector building, which is the kitchen and a corridor that goes from one building to the other, serves as a buffer between the neighborhood, the residential neighborhood, and Route 202. It should be noted that the building, and I think our acoustical will testify to this, the building will act as a buffer between the residential neighborhood and Route 202 to have at least some visual impediment as well as some auditory impediment to the traffic of Route 202. But that any people who are congregating in the courtyard will not be seen or heard by the residential neighbors. We have support spaces, which is what I was referring to before. There's restrooms, there's a storage room. So for example, this particular layout you see here is 12 72-inch round tables. Each one seats 8 people. This is showing a potential setup of 96 people. But when those tables are not in use and those chairs are not in use, they need to be stored somewhere. So we don't want them stored, in the back parking lot or anything. So we need to make sure we have adequate storage space. There's going to be a variety of operational needs that a facility like this has, so we want to make sure we have adequate storage space throughout. So that program is here on the left. That under previous testimony, it was requested that we include a walkway from the back parking lot to the front so that people didn't have to walk through the parking lot. This hatched walkway here allows people who may be parking along the south side to be able to, having to be in the way of vehicular traffic. And of course, we will accommodate for valet during periods of peak use, but we don't anticipate peak use happening all the time. It's not every day that a banquet space gets rented. If it was rented, maybe once a week, that would be great. But overall, during times of peak use, valet is something that we would definitely plan for. But that most of the time, these 51 parking spaces are going to serve the restaurant, which currently only has 27 spaces. So if the restaurant is currently overcrowded with 27 spaces, it's our belief that with 51 spaces, obviously less cars will end up on Charlotte Drive.
When you were considering your design, and I can see from, or I can hear from your testimony that you've been listening to some of the concerns that were raised from earlier meetings.
Yeah, I agree with most of them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I can see that that's reflected in your design and the way in which you created those spaces that would really, in some ways, shield the adjacent residential properties from what might be considered the noise-making part of the business. And there has to be some noise inside. And I know we're going to hear from your acoustic engineer as we move forward. I lost you a little bit with the rooftop bar because
Sure.
it's open, it was closed, it's...
So, originally we did not have... Yeah. Originally we did not have a roof on the third floor. I think somebody asked about this 2.5 stories versus 3 stories. The second floor is not a whole floor, it's just a mezzanine. Let me go to the second floor. So this plan here is just a mezzanine which is used for staging, and by say staging, what I mean is if you have audio visual, if you have a guest of honor that needs to make an entrance, this area is just intended for staging that has a staircase down to the main floor. So we don't have a full second floor. We have what we call a hospitality suite, which is labeled as a dressing room. So oftentimes when you have corporate events, the event planner, one of their requirements is they get their own room. So they don't want to be in the meeting, but they want to be on premises. So we don't want them hanging out, in the restaurant or the bar. So we have this hospitality suite here. We have this staging area on a mezzanine level. And then as you can see, the stairs and the elevator, and there's more storage here as well. So again, like programming storage is essential for an operation of this type because you're going to have a lot of glassware, you're going to have a lot of linens, you're going to have a lot of tables. But this is not space that contributes to parking needs or occupancy. It's just space that contributes to support. So the second floor, or the mezzanine, doesn't really have any significant occupancy. And so the elevator and the stair go up to this third floor. I should also point out that the height of the building does comply with the ordinance. We're not asking for a height variance. So we're not building the building any taller than is allowable per the ordinance. But upstairs we just have a bar. You can see that there's a wall around the bar. So again, there's no noise or even visual leakage onto the adjacent residential neighborhood because the whole bottom part of the plan is solid. And then the other half of this piece is for shielded mechanical rooftop. So one of the things that we want to ensure is that any mechanical equipment that's used to heat or cool the space is not visible to the adjacent neighbors or anything like that. So we have this mechanical rooftop where we anticipate placing the bulk of the mechanical closer to the 202 side. And then there's a wall along the south side, again, that shields the adjacent neighborhood from that. But this bar here is only meant to house 30 occupants per our application, and it's meant to serve mostly as either a pre-function or a cocktail hour type of space for events, or just separately groups.
And I'm not sure, but it does not open to the mezzanine. It's separate.
It does not.
Separate from.
Correct.
And it's completely enclosed.
Correct.
Okay. Someone at a previous meeting had asked, and maybe you'll be getting to this, if when you're showing your actual artistic drawings or renderings, if you would be able to show them from different vantage points.
Yes.
As an example, if I'm living directly behind the property, as some of the members here are, or across either street from the property, what am I going to be seeing, given the architecture, given the potential plantings and things like that.
I actually brought an exhibit in case that came up. I brought a rendering of that backside, which I can hand out to everybody. I don't know if we want to enter this into the record.
Yes, that's going to be, I think I'm up to A8.
A8. Just describe it for the record.
A8 is a rendering of the proposed view from Charlotte Drive east of the rear of the property.
And is
Mind
that,
if I hand out some copies to the board?
it would be acceptable, but is that the only one you have, just so we clear?
Yeah, I mean, that's a view that shows what the back view would look like, which
Right. Okay.
supports everything that I've just testified to.
Yes.
Building elevation is colored drawing, right?
Correct.
Which side of the building is that?
Front of the building.
A9 is, yeah, right, that one.
So I believe you're looking at the original submission, which just has a big rendering. The revised submission from October shows the original rendering and then the revised smaller building here.
Yeah, we have that one.
I'm looking at that rendering, and I'm having trouble looking at that and kind of matching it to your plan.
Okay.
Do you think at the next meeting you could have a rendering that better reflects what you're showing in your plan?
Sure, I can do a more photorealistic rendering of the exact plan. What you're not seeing in this rendering is there's another window behind this arch.
Okay.
The plan shows 4 windows, 3 in the main banquet space and 1 in the storage room.
Right, right. It also shows like the courtyard being more open in the front to the parking lot versus the door. I can't really figure out kind of where that is.
Yep.
And then a ramp and a stair on either side of the entrance there. Okay.
Yeah, there's a ramp that goes up to that level from the handicap spaces. But yeah, I will make sure we have a photorealistic rendering that's exact to the plan.
Can you confirm the maximum improved lot coverage and the floor area ratio? I want to make sure that I'm looking at the right numbers.
I can refer to the engineer's plan. I believe he had those on there. Lot coverage. The proposed lot coverage is 79.4%, 30,930 square feet.
And the FAR?
FAR. Floor area ratio, proposed 0.27.
Okay. In the design in your design, was there a reason why you opted to require additional floor area ratio? Why you couldn't bring the floor area ratio into the ordinance?
I think, I mean, obviously we started with a larger footprint. We reduced it to try to meet this, we had a larger ideal head count, but really in order for this to be viable for, like I mentioned, the corporate use, we're trying to get a room that can fit 100 people. So that's really the driver for the square footage of the main space.
And what would happen if you took 4,000 feet away?
4,000?
Square feet away, what would you lose?
Well, the building footprint itself is around 4,000 square feet. We have a total of 8,300 square feet in the 3 levels.
The FAR that I'm looking at is 10,337 square feet.
That includes the courtyard space, which is
That includes the courtyard space?
correct.
Outside?
Yeah, and we could take away the courtyard space, but again, as I said, I think it's useful from a design standpoint and B, to provide a buffer for those outdoor spaces that we want to keep from the residential neighborhood.
I understand that, but you're also making a big building for the residents to look at. So if you let's just say you took out the courtyard,
Sure.
does that bring your FAR?
I mean, if we replace the courtyard with completely pervious surface, green space and things like that, it would potentially reduce it, yeah.
Potentially reduce it? Well, when you get a moment, I'd like to know what changes you can make so that the FAR is not a variance.
We can certainly study that. I just also want to reiterate, though, that the design of the building is meant to function to minimize any disruption to the adjacent neighborhood. So, for example, if we reduce the size of the building, we reduce the storage spaces, we have to shrink everything together. Then, if we don't have enough outdoor space, then people start leaking onto the adjacent properties. They go out into the site of the neighbors. If stuff can't be stored in the building, then it has to be stored elsewhere. We have to have, we don't want to have to do that. So what we want to do is be able to give the operator the best possible scenario that minimizes the impact to the neighborhood.
Well, you know what? I'm going to let the neighborhood decide whether or not they want a big building or a smaller building with storage elsewhere.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just not a person that likes FAR variance.
No, I can appreciate that.
Well, when you've done the FAR calculations and you look at the new building footprint, does the way the mezzanine function and/or rooftop bar have any impact on that calculation?
Yeah, it does. And I think obviously we want the building to be well designed. Well designed obviously means trying to meet the code where where we can. And I think that what we're trying to do here is juggle a lot of different requirements, right? So I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate what you're saying. We'll certainly do what we can. But we also want to make sure, we're improving the site. We're adding as much landscaping as we can. We're adding as much parking as we can. We're doing all those different things. So,
I think part of the FAR calculations or as we interpret things would lend itself toward the size of the building, obviously, the visual impact, but also how it's utilized, how the space is utilized. And here, the space is utilized in a way that's sufficient for the business you described, and yet at the interior, it's not an intense use beyond the banquet facility itself.
correct.
Is that fair to say?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question at that point? You had mentioned that the banquet space is going to be a multi-purpose space, so it could be used for multiple functions, corporate meetings, things like that.
Sure.
Town hall. Under IBC, you've got fixed seating and open seating. Can you describe, so fixed seating is 15 square feet per occupant.
Tables and chairs is typically 15 square feet per
Right.
occupant.
But that'd be 140 occupants. And
We're not-
what,
yeah.
what about non-fixed?
Non-fixed, like a lecture, 7 square feet or 5 square feet
7
from
square feet
standing.
is typical,
Yeah,
yeah.
so our intent is to design this for 100 occupants. And so everything has to be designed proportionately, the size of the kitchen, the size of the storage, everything like
Well,
that.
the occupancy load based on that would give you 300 occupants.
Understood, but the posted occupancy doesn't have to be the maximum occupancy.
No, understood, but
So our design intent is for 100 occupants, 180 on the entire campus.
okay.
That's what our application states. We don't have any fixed seating, so we don't have any banquettes or booths or
Right,
things
right.
like that. So it's always going to be flexible.
So you're going to post that occupancy in the building?
In my
You have
experience,
to
like
post
I
it.
mentioned in the church, they have posted occupancy signs that stay per the Bridgewater town official, the occupancy is
So
such.
that's usually based on IBC.
I've seen it both ways. I also just want to stress, when you're talking about design, a lot of times like a house of cards, you change one thing, everything else has to change, right? So we've studied this building, as I said, for a number of years, and we've come back and reduced the size of the building because we want to work with the board, we want to work with the neighbors. But ultimately, if we just say we're just trying to cut square footage out of the building, then it changes the whole program and how the building functions. So I just want to state that because I'm sensitive to it, you're sensitive to it, but like I said, almost 70% of the building is support space. We're not trying to cram, hundreds of people onto the site. We're trying to, design a business that works, that gives the operator a chance at being successful. Someone had said that, they are successful, but as someone who owns a restaurant, I can absolutely tell you the landscape for restaurants has changed between delivery apps, between various economic factors, costs of things. It's very different. So from the outside, it might perceive like, oh, these people are just printing money or that it's super easy, but it's not. And I'm sure you guys also see a lot of restaurants going out of business. So we're trying to give the operator a chance to be successful, and in doing that, every piece of the design has been considered.
Well, it's just how it impacts the neighbors. I mean,
100%.
They're going to come back at the end of all this and give testimony that, and they're probably going to photograph all the cars that are parked on their
Right, but that's the current condition with 27 spaces.
Right.
So what we're saying is that most of the time, we're still going to be operating the same restaurant, but with 51 spaces. That's what we're saying.
Okay.
Question, how integral to the plan is the bar?
How integral to a restaurant is a bar?
This plan.
I mean, we could potentially take the bar. In our original plan, we had the bar on the ground floor. I don't know if you recall that. It was in the space between the buildings when that was bigger. We've just relocated it because I do believe a bar that has a liquor license is integral. If you have a liquor license, why would you not use it?
And with the terrace that's shown on the map, on the plan, the current.
On the third floor?
On the third floor.
Right.
That's open to the outside?
That's just, yes, it's, I believe it's, let me just correctly say the number of seats.
I'm looking at.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6. We're showing soft seating for 12 for people who need to go outside to smoke. Because if someone has to smoke, you don't necessarily want them going back down through the elevator in the building to go back out to the courtyard.
Does that count to the FAR? The terrace?
It is included in our FAR, yeah.
What's the occupancy load of the terrace and the bar? On the
30.
30
Our
for
application
both?
states 30 for the bar, 100 for the banquet space, and 50 for the Amelia restaurant.
So 30 for the bar and the terrace combined?
Correct.
Okay.
You're really married to the courtyard, right? I mean, if you courtyard out, how does that affect the FAR? I mean, I can't imagine you have those numbers handy, but.
Yeah, so the courtyard is, I do have the numbers handy. The courtyard is currently about 1,300 square feet, and then we have 1,300 square feet of walkway.
Right. I mean, we've seen these hybrid surfaces. I mean, can we?
Like a grass paver kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is this an option?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, because you're basically, it sounds like you're saying it's just a place for people to vape and smoke, right? I mean, it's just it's a buffer between the two spaces, so I mean, it seems like that might be a good place to start.
Sure.
Although I think, you know, it's a nice design. I mean, it makes sense for what it's worth. But it is big, though. So.
Yeah, I mean, it also provides circulation to both buildings without having to have separate entrances, which can be confusing. So we're trying to create a singular entrance to both spaces. But yeah, we can certainly look at changing it to pervious surface. We can use a hybrid paver. All of those things are options.
So I have a question regarding the courtyard. Do we need that courtyard? The building can be moved more closer to the existing building.
Well, I think if you were having a function in there, you probably want your own entrance. As not to be confused, you don't want your guests walking into a restaurant by accident if they're going there for a different function. So it creates a little bit of separation that helps with, what we call pre-function, checking people in, receiving guests, things like that. If you slam the buildings together, it might be unclear when you go through the door which way to go. Any other questions before I move on?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify one thing.
Please.
Because I think there was some confusion. I think we heard some testimony about the FAR and the courtyard being included.
Yes.
And I don't think, I mean, if the plan as it's shown, not the rendering, is open, that the courtyard is contributing to impervious cover, but not floor area ratio if it is open. So it won't have any impact if it is reduced, unless it's enclosed, on the floor area ratio. Floor area ratio only includes the interior of the building, less staircases and things like that. And I just want to make that clear because the testimony about the courtyard being included doesn't comport with the numbers that are on the site plan. So I just want to make that clear. That 0.27 is more clearly stated on the site plan application that includes both the restaurant and the building footprint, I believe, and I'd like the applicant to clarify that because I don't believe the architectural plans include the square footage of the restaurant in the calculations of all the floor areas or the areas on the property. So I just want to make that also clarified that that there is a restaurant area in addition to that would contribute to the floor area ratio.
That's correct. The floor area ratio on the engineer's plans include the existing restaurant.
As it should.
As it should.
Yeah, thank you.
But, so you testified that the outside area of the bar, you did include in the...
No, the 10,000 square foot number that was quoted includes Cafe Amelia, but not the...
Oh, no, but I'm talking about that upstairs at the bar. you've got an outside area, you noted that that was included in your FAR.
I thought you meant, no, the bar is included in our FAR. Sorry.
Just the interior of the.
Just the interior bar,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
If it's all right, I'd like to talk a little bit about density of occupancy, because again, I think there's some confusion over seats and occupancy. So their industry standards basically say if you have a table of 4, which the current interior of Cafe Amelia is all 4 tops, if somebody comes in as a 2-top or a single person, they might occupy a 4-top and those other 3 seats go vacant. It's very unusual that you would have all the seats in the restaurant at every table occupied in full, because you don't just get a bunch of 4-tops that all come in at the same time. So while I understand that they've had events and things like that which have created an intensity, the rule of thumb would show that if, for 50 seats, based on current industry standards, the amount of spaces used would actually be less than 30, because either most people come together or most tables are not fully occupied. So again, I just want to reiterate that the bulk of the use of the site, having 51 spaces over the current 27, would be more relief than what's currently there. And a lot of the testimony you've heard is people reacting to the current situation, which we agree is underserved. So. The last thing I want to respond to was someone said, what are the benefits of this plan? One of the things that's not talked about is that we're going to be losing the outdoor seats that are currently there. So currently there's 70 seats outside, which are all going away. So the new design reduces those seats. It also reduces the adjacent neighborhood's view of those seats and the noise that they create. I fully support the previous comment about relocating the dumpster to the Charlotte Drive side. I think that's a good idea. I think it'll also open up that back parking lot a little more. The new design also reduces the amount of parking in the front setback, which I think is safer. And then the new design also reduces a lot of the unsightly views from the residential area per the architectural buffer that I previously described, as well as additional landscaping. I support the idea of adding additional landscaping. I just don't want to compromise the parking numbers that we're aiming to achieve. Let me just see. I think that adequately describes the proposed building. With respect to the current operations, as I mentioned, the core team at Cafe Amelia has been there for a quarter of a century. They obviously operate the place really well. As various residents have testified, they're very successful. If we were to build this addition, we don't anticipate a huge spike in staff requirements, and the reason being is because the kitchen team would remain the same. The new kitchen is located between the two, between the restaurant and the banquet space. So if there's a banquet going on, the new kitchen can serve that. If it's just the restaurant, it can serve that. But if you had, for example, a social gathering of 12 tables, as we're showing in our layout, typically you would need a total of 4 additional servers to serve that. They don't want to just hire temporary staff to serve banquets. They pride themselves on having a core team that they use consistently and work really well together. Someone had mentioned something about catering and additional consultants. All the catering would obviously be handled on site. There would not be outside caterers coming to the banquet facility. So we don't really anticipate a huge spike in staff needed. At most, I think they would just utilize their full staff, at peak times, and then manage, the valet at peak times as well to mitigate any potential overflow of parking.
Very well.
I just have one thing. I'm looking at the December 4th, 2025 engineering report, number 2, I guess it is. It says under technical review, site layout / parking / traffic comments, item 3, given the size and use of the banquet hall, the applicant should commit that the banquet hall will not be used concurrently with regular restaurant operations. unless parking demand and supply are clearly demonstrated to accommodate both. A share-use parking plan or restrictions should be provided to prevent overflow. Continuing comment, there has been no written commitment or operational restriction provided to restrict simultaneous operation of the banquet hall and restaurant. Given the limited parking supply, concurrent use should be limited or otherwise justified by the applicant. If somebody could speak to that at our next meeting.
Yeah, we'll have our traffic engineer, but again, we meet the township's parking requirements, so for both the uses. So I'm not really sure the intent of that question, but we'll have our traffic engineer address it.
I'd also like to mention as a point of note that when the facility contracts with the corporate clients, a lot of their staff are usually from out of town, and they arrange transportation via coach or bus. So, the team at the facility plans to continue that practice and try and coordinate busing people in from off-site corporate campuses as much as possible.
So is the applicant also willing to restrict the type of use for that banquet hall? So it wouldn't be wedding, showers, et cetera, it would just be for training?
I don't think the
I don't
applicant's
know.
willing to do that, no.
Can I just clarify? So the rooftop or the rooftop bar and terrace,
The third floor bar?
right? You've eliminated all windows on the west and south side of the building.
Correct.
And the rooftop terrace is actually buffered by the elevator and the elevator machine room.
Correct.
And then on the east side, you've got mechanical. Is that elevated to the same height as the bar? How is that buffered from the terrace?
So there's going to be a parapet between the terrace and the mechanical with a screen above it, like a decorative screen wall. And then we anticipate the bulk of the mechanical will be towards the north side facing 202.
That was going to be my next question. So if you're going to put up a screen, the resident to the east side, that'll act as a buffer for them?
Well, on the east side of the plan, there'll be like a proper, I'm just going to hand these out just so you could see. Sorry. This is A8, if you wouldn't mind just passing them. So in this proposed view, you'll see there's a solid parapet wall that would screen the mechanical equipment from the east side residence. And then you could see the roof of the adjacent bar area is higher than that parapet.
And then, okay, that was my question. So it does create a visual buffer.
Correct.
For many, especially from their second floor. I know there was concern of bedroom windows and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, it blocks light, it blocks the view.
Yeah, our goal is not to have any light or sound trespass to the existing neighborhood from.
In this, up on that upper portion of the bar, is that a wall pack light fixture?
I believe we will have light fixtures on that side for safety and security. Yeah.
Okay, as I know we talked, or we didn't talk, at the previous meeting, they talked about lowering the two light fixtures in the back, the beat lights, down to 12 feet from the 16 feet to help create some shield. But you've got this wall pack up almost 30 feet.
Yeah, we would remove that.
Yeah, so I mean, if the wall packs, I should hope to be much lower.
Yep.
Okay.
I apologize, I missed that in the rendering.
Well, you also have a door. You're also showing a door there. I don't see a door on the,
We have a loading dock located on the south side,
right,
off of Banquet Service. That's what that double door is.
yeah, but here, you have a door here.
That's the existing door.
Right, and it's not, I don't see it on the plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to go away. I just made a collage from the existing building and our proposed
It's gonna go
building.
away, okay.
So the existing building you see there on the right-hand side.
What are you
And
gonna do with the existing kitchen? If you're creating a new kitchen,
It's going to become storage of, pots, pans, dishes, things like that. There's also a small basement space that currently has storage that we'd prefer not to use as much.
Which door is going away?
The one on the right next to the blue van.
That one's going away.
Yeah. That actually was a photo from Google Maps that I just used as the basis of my collage.
What are the peak hours of the restaurant?
The restaurant is currently open weekdays, 11:30 to 10 p.m. Obviously, lunch and dinner are the peak hours. And then on weekends, I believe they're open 3:30 to 10 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday.
So Friday evenings, Saturday evenings.
Probably for the restaurant
Pretty full?
business, I would say, yeah. I mean, they, like has been mentioned before, they do a good corporate business for lunch often, and they'll host a lot of corporate events there for lunch and things like that, on Wednesdays apparently.
Right. From your testimony, I almost have this sense they're saying that kind of when you have the banquet hall busy, not so much the restaurant. I mean, at least that's my interpretation of your testimony here. Do you not see this banquet hall being used on?
You know, I think based on the size that it is, it's not obviously going to be for weddings. Most weddings in New Jersey are over 100 people. So it's probably, as someone referenced, you know, Sweet 16s and smaller events like that. So, you know, obviously if they have 40 people in there for a small social party and, you know, 50 people in the restaurant, that would be similar to, I mean, if we're designing the site to accommodate 180 with parking that meets that requirement, I don't see how that would be a problem.
But they could be both operating at pretty full capacity.
They could, and as long as we're within the occupancies that we're planning, we meet the parking requirement, and it should not be an issue with respect to traffic overflow. I mean, again, I think if you have a well-designed kitchen and you have well-designed staging space and you have well-designed storage space, it makes operation a whole lot easier. If you saw the kitchen that they're operating out of now, which is incredibly small with a basement storage unit, it's incredible that, you know, that they're able to do what they do with that. I think the goal of this whole project is to design something that makes the operations flow smoothly and keeps the disturbance to the adjacent neighborhood as minimal as possible.
We are nearing the end of our time. I'm sorry, did somebody?
What's the current occupancy of the restaurant right now?
Currently 72 seats, 24 in private dining, 42 in the main dining room, and 6 at the bar.
How about outside?
Same. They were granted equal amount of seats outside during COVID.
So there's potentially
144 current available occupants. And we're reducing that, as I
What's
mentioned.
typical, though?
Depends on the time of day, it depends on what the weather is, it depends on a variety of factors. I mean, nothing is...
Something that would spill into the neighborhood, typically. Like, how many people does it take? We've heard a number of people raise concerns over parking.
Yeah, there's
Right, so it's
27 current spaces. There's
Understand.
2 staff that currently use spaces on the regular. So anytime there's more than 25 cars, it's likely to spill out into somewhere else.
But how many people does that typically mean are in the restaurant?
Well, I would say if it's lunch business with corporate, you're talking a lot of corporate clients come separately. They drive separate and meet there if you're meeting for a business lunch or something like that. So 25 cars by industry standards would essentially equate to 45 people, roughly. But again, if the private, see right now there's no flexibility of use. There's a private dining room, and if that private dining room is rented out by a group of 10, then they lose, 14 seats.
Right.
So it's really, there's such a variety of use that it's really hard to state that there's predictable patterns. But what we can say is that there's only 27 spaces currently, and that the restaurant would benefit from the additional 24 spaces under the new plan.
So it's closing time, as we like to say, but before we announce that, there are a few things. One is we would like to pick up Mr. Kalasian's testimony with questions from our board professionals who have yet to speak. I've almost forgotten what they sound like, which they've been so quiet, but we appreciate all the public input as well. But if that, Ms. Jennings, that he will be able to come back and entertain questions first from our professional staff and then from the public as well.
Absolutely.
And in terms of scheduling the next meeting, I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but I leave that to better minds than my own in terms of scheduling, but you have some flexibility in terms of what you might be able to do, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but I think we kind of spoke already.
Yeah,
Okay.
but So Nancy, the next available date? Okay. So May 26th. So for purposes of the public, this meeting is going to conclude for now. And we'll continue on May 26th at 7 PM in this room. And Ms. Jennings, what additional witnesses do you anticipate?
Well, obviously, we'll bring Craig back. I have the acoustical engineer, the traffic engineer, and the professional planner. We were hoping that we would get that night to ourselves, because I think we'll use up all.
Yeah, so I think, Nancy, we could book that whole night, right? Yeah, so you have the whole night.
Okay, and then the matter's carried without further public notice?
Without further notice to the public, yes. Okay, thank you.
So before we bring the meeting to a close, I just want to know if there's any, Nancy, any unfinished business that we need to attend to?
No, if I could just ask Ms. Jennings before we adjourn, are you okay with extending time through mid-June?
Yeah, that's fine.
Send you.
Send me a form, sure. You got it.
Great, thank you, and thank you to the members of the public. Somebody would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second?
I second it.
Great. With that, thank you, everyone.
Yes, May 26th. Yes. Good night.